Manhattan shows no mercy to the weak. Tonight, it will tear Sienna Vale apart in front of 200 people. She walks into the city's most expensive restaurant in the wrong dress, thinking she's there for an anniversary celebration. Instead, her fiancé, Grayson Mercer, stands under the crystal chandeliers and publicly destroys her. He breaks off the engagement. He accuses her of being a power-hungry slut. He introduces a replacement, an heiress. The whole thing is on camera. Architectural blueprints scatter across the marble floor like shattered pieces of dignity. But the night isn't over. In the dark alley behind the restaurant, a black armored sedan appears beside her, and the most dangerous man in New York makes an offer, revenge, by becoming his wife. Follow my story to the end. Like and comment where you're watching from so I know how far this story has come. The rain came down like punishment. Sienna Vale stood outside Lumiere, Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant, staring at the gold-plated doors while water soaked through her dress. Wrong dress. She knew it the second she stepped out of the cab and saw the valets' faces, that flicker of pity mixed with secondhand embarrassment. The emerald silk clung to her skin, beautiful in theory, catastrophic in practice. Too bold, too cheap under these lights, too her in a world that had always demanded she be less. She should have turned around, but Grayson had texted 3 times that afternoon. Wear something special. Tonight matters. She'd assumed he meant their 2-year anniversary. Maybe a promotion announcement. His political career had been accelerating, and Sienna had learned to play the part. Smile at fundraisers, memorize donors' names, pretend the whispers about her scholarship kid background didn't cut deep every single time. The doorman opened the entrance without meeting her eyes. The sound hit her first. Not music, not conversation. Applause. 200 people, politicians, real estate moguls, society wives dripping in diamonds, all turning toward her like she'd walked onto a stage she didn't know existed. Crystal chandeliers burned overhead. Too bright. Too exposing. Long tables stretched across the marble ballroom, every seat filled, every face familiar from gossip columns and campaign rallies. And at the center, beneath a spotlight that seemed designed for this exact moment, stood Grayson Mercer. Tall, handsome in that manufactured political way, sharp jawline, perfect teeth, hair that cost more to maintain than her monthly rent. He wore a navy suit that probably cost $5,000. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Next to him stood a woman Sienna had never seen before. Blonde. Elegant. Wearing a cream gown that fit like it had been sewn onto her body by craftsmen who understood the difference between expensive and expensive. She had the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers, the kind of posture that came from generations of wealth and zero doubt about her place in the world. Sienna's stomach dropped. "There she is," Grayson said into a microphone, his voice echoing across the ballroom. "Everyone, please welcome Sienna Vale." More applause. Confused now. Scattered. Sienna's legs locked. Her portfolio case, filled with blueprints for a project she'd been preparing to show Grayson's development contact, suddenly weighed 1,000 pounds. Grayson gestured her forward. She walked. Each step felt like moving through concrete. Phones appeared in hands around the room, cameras aimed, recording. Her pulse hammered in her ears louder than her heels on marble. When she reached the center, Grayson's smile widened. "I know this is unexpected," he continued, still speaking to the crowd, not to her. "But I wanted all of you here tonight, my friends, my supporters, the people who've believed in my vision for this city, to witness something important." Sienna's mouth had gone dry. "Grayson, what? Our engagement is over." The words landed like a gunshot. Silence crashed through the ballroom, then chaos, gasps, murmurs, the click, click, click of phone cameras capturing her face as it collapsed. "I've realized," Grayson went on, his voice steady, practiced, like he'd rehearsed this in front of a mirror, "that I can't build the future I want with someone who's more interested in climbing social ladders than supporting the work that actually matters. Sienna has been useful, but useful isn't enough." Her vision blurred. The chandeliers became smears of light. "I need a partner who understands legacy, family, real contribution." He turned to the blonde woman beside him, sliding an arm around her waist. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Celeste Whitmore, my fiancé." The room erupted. Sienna couldn't hear it anymore. her ears filled with a high-pitched ringing, drowning out everything except the sound of her own breathing. Sharp, shallow, desperate. Celeste Whitmore. Heiress to the Whitmore Group. Hotels, developments, political donations that could make or break careers. The kind of name that opened every door in Manhattan. Grayson was still talking. Something about shared values. Strategic partnership. His hand rested on Celeste's lower back with the ease of repetition. This wasn't new. How long had this been happening? Sienna's fingers went numb. The portfolio case slipped. Blueprints scattered across the marble floor. Weeks of work. Detailed drawings of adaptive reuse projects. Sketches of facades and structural systems. Spreading out like the wreckage of everything she'd been stupid enough to believe in. People stepped back as the paper slid past their designer shoes. Someone laughed. Not loud. Just a single sharp sound from somewhere in the crowd, but it cracked something inside her chest. She looked up. Met Grayson's eyes. He wasn't even looking at her anymore. He was looking at Celeste, whispering something that made her smile, playing the role of doting fiancé while Sienna stood 3 feet away, drowning in public humiliation. "You son of a bitch," her voice came out hoarse, too quiet to carry. But Grayson heard. He glanced at her, and for just a second, something cold flickered across his face. Satisfaction. He'd wanted this. Planned it. The timing, the crowd, the spectacle. All of it designed to destroy her as thoroughly as possible. "Best of luck, Sienna," he said, dismissing her with a politician's smile. "I'm sure you'll land on your feet." Then he turned away. The crowd swallowed him and Celeste, closing ranks, conversations resuming, the story already forming. Poor scholarship girl who thought she could marry into power, publicly discarded, humiliated, irrelevant. Sienna's hands were shaking so hard she couldn't control them. She bent down, started grabbing at blueprints with fingers that wouldn't work properly, smearing ink, crumpling edges. Someone's heel stepped on a corner of her best elevation drawing. Another paper slid under a table. She couldn't breathe. The room pressed in. Too many people, too many eyes, too many phones still recording her collapse. Sweat ran down her spine. Her dress clung to her skin like shame. She needed air, needed out, needed to disappear before she vomited or screamed or both. She abandoned the blueprints, pushed through the crowd, ignoring voices calling her name. Reporters probably, or worse, people she'd met at Grayson's fundraisers, people who'd smiled at her last week and would be texting about her downfall before she reached the street. The gold doors, the rain. Cold air hit her face like a slap. She ran, not gracefully. Her heels caught on wet pavement, nearly sent her sprawling. She kicked them off, left them behind, kept moving. The rain soaked through her dress in seconds, plastered her hair to her skull, washed mascara down her cheeks in black streaks. She didn't care, couldn't care, just needed distance between herself and that ballroom, that crowd, that failure. 2 blocks. 3. Her feet were bleeding, cut on glass or metal, or the 1,000 sharp things Manhattan streets hid in darkness. She didn't feel it. Everything had gone numb except the screaming in her head. "Stupid, stupid, stupid! How could you be so stupid?" The alley appeared like a wound opening in the city. Dark. Empty. Trash bags piled against brick walls, dumpsters overflowing, the stink of rotting food and piss. She stumbled inside, collapsed against the wall, slid down until she hit concrete, and broke. Sobs tore out of her chest, ugly and raw. She pressed her hands over her mouth, trying to muffle the sound, but it kept coming. 2 years. 2 years of molding herself into what Grayson wanted, attending events she hated, smiling through comments about her background, her family, her place. And for what? To be destroyed in front of everyone who'd ever doubted she belonged? Her phone buzzed. Then again. Again. Texts flooding in. She didn't need to read them to know what they said. The video was already viral. Hashtag Sienna Vale probably trending. Manhattan loved a spectacle, and she'd just given them a masterpiece. She threw the phone. It skittered across wet concrete, screen cracking against brick. Her whole body shook. From cold or shock or rage, she didn't know anymore. That was when the car appeared. No headlights, just a black sedan. Expensive, armored from the look of it, sliding into the alley entrance like it had been waiting. The engine purred, too quiet for something that size. Tinted windows hid whoever sat inside. Sienna's breath caught. The back door opened. A man stepped out. Tall. Dark suit that made Grayson's look like a rental. He moved with the kind of control that suggested violence lived just beneath his skin, barely leashed. Sharp features, dark hair, eyes that caught the distant streetlight and reflected nothing back. He didn't look at her with pity. Didn't look surprised to find a woman bleeding and crying in an alley. He looked at her like he'd been expecting exactly this. "Sienna Vale," he said. Not a question. Her throat closed. She tried to stand, but her legs wouldn't work. He moved closer, not threatening, just inevitable, like gravity. "You don't know me," he continued, voice low and rough with an accent she couldn't place. Italian, maybe, or something older. "But I know what just happened to you. I know who did it, and I know you want him destroyed." "Who?" Her voice cracked. "Who are you?" "Lucien Moretti." The name hit like cold water. Everyone in New York knew that name, or thought they did. Billionaire developer. The man rebuilding half of Brooklyn and the Bronx. Buildings rising from neighborhoods where buildings shouldn't be able to rise. Projects that somehow cut through red tape like it didn't exist. Developments that politicians praised in public and whispered about in private. And underneath all of it, the rumors. Construction empire built on something darker. Connections to people who didn't appear in Forbes lists. A past soaked in blood that nobody talked about because talking got people hurt. "Stay away from me," Sienna managed, but it came out weak. "I'm offering you a choice." Lucien crouched in front of her, bringing himself to eye level. His face showed no emotion, but something burned behind his eyes. Not kindness, but understanding. Like he recognized the taste of humiliation. "Marry me. 6 months. Contract marriage, nothing real. In exchange, I give you $500,000, connections that will launch your architecture career properly, and leverage to destroy Grayson Mercer's political future." Sienna's laugh came out broken. "You're insane." "Probably." He didn't smile. "But I'm also your only option. By tomorrow morning, every firm in this city will have seen that video. They'll remember you as the woman who couldn't keep her fiancé, the social climber who got publicly dumped. You'll spend years crawling out of that hole if you ever do." "And you're what? Rescuing me?" "No." His voice went colder. "I'm using you. I need a wife for 6 months to satisfy some business arrangements. You need revenge and a future. We trade. I don't... Grayson Mercer is a political parasite who's built his career on his father's name and his ability to smile at cameras. He's also drowning in gambling debts he thinks nobody knows about. Underground poker games, sports betting. He owes people who don't accept payment plans." Lucien's eyes never left hers. "I know who those people are. I can make those debts public. I can connect them to campaign finance violations, illegal donations, all the things that destroy careers. But I need time, and I need you beside me playing the role, making it believable." Sienna's chest felt tight. "Why me?" "Because you're angry enough to say yes." He stood, offered his hand. She stared at it. At him. At the car waiting in the darkness behind him. This was insane. Marrying a stranger, a dangerous stranger, for revenge? That wasn't who she was. She'd built her entire life on control, discipline, careful planning. You didn't claw your way from a scholarship student to an architectural career by making impulsive decisions, but that life was already gone. Burned to ash in a ballroom full of people who would never let her forget. Her hand moved before her brain caught up. Lucien's grip was firm. He pulled her to her feet without effort, steadied her when her legs threatened to give out. She was taller than she'd realized, or he was exactly the right height to look directly into her eyes when he spoke. 6 months, he said. You live in my penthouse. You attend events as my wife. You smile for cameras and don't ask questions about my business. At the end, you get your money, your career, and Grayson destroyed. We signed papers tonight. What's the catch? No romance, no intimacy, no questions about what I do or who I meet with. You're an employee, not a partner. And if I say no, then you walk away. Find your own path out of this. He released her hand. But you won't, because you're standing in an alley, bleeding, ruined, with nowhere to go and nobody to call. Pride won't rebuild your life. He was right. She hated that he was right. One condition, Sienna heard herself say. I want Grayson to know, eventually. I want him to realize I didn't just disappear. I want him to see me with you, successful, untouchable, and understand exactly what he lost. Something almost like approval flickered across Lucien's face. Done. He gestured toward the car. Sienna looked back at the alley entrance, at the city beyond, glittering and cruel and still celebrating her destruction. Then at the sedan, warm light glowing inside, dry and safe, and offering something that might be survival or might be a different kind of disaster. She got in. The door closed behind her with a sound like finality. Leather seats, climate control that made her shiver after the rain, partition between the driver and back seat, tinted so dark she couldn't see who was steering. Lucien slid in beside her, maintaining careful distance, already pulling out his phone to type something rapid fire. The car moved. Sienna watched Manhattan slide past the windows, streets she'd walked 1,000 times, suddenly unfamiliar from this angle. From inside money and power instead of clawing toward it. There's a tablet in the side panel, Lucien said without looking up from his phone. Contracts loaded. Read it. You have until we reach my building to decide if you're staying. She found the tablet. The screen lit up, displaying page after page of legal language that probably meant her soul in 12 different ways. Marriage contract. Temporary union agreement. Duration, 6 months from date of civil ceremony. Compensation, $500,000 upon completion. Residence, shared penthouse, separate bedrooms. Public appearances, minimum 12 events as required. Confidentiality, permanent, violation subject to financial penalties. Termination clauses. Death, breach of contract, mutual agreement. Her hands trembled as she scrolled. There were provisions about media statements, social media protocols, what happened if one of them got sick or injured. Everything clinical, transactional, like drafting blueprints for a building that would only stand 6 months before demolition. What business arrangements? She asked. Excuse me? You said you need a wife for business arrangements. What arrangements? Lucien finally looked at her. That's a question. You said no questions about your business. This is about our arrangement. Same thing? Then I'm not signing. He studied her. Long enough that Sienna wondered if she'd just made a catastrophic mistake. The car kept moving, but she had no idea where. For all she knew, he could dump her in a worse alley, leave her with nothing. Then he spoke. I have partners who believe unmarried men are unstable. Risky investments. They want to see commitment, family, roots. I need their cooperation for a development project that will triple my legitimate holdings in this city. He paused. Happy? Why not marry someone real, someone from your world? Because everyone from my world wants something permanent. You want revenge and money. That expires in 6 months. Clean, simple. The car slowed. Through the window, Sienna saw a building rising like a blade of glass and steel toward the sky. Residential tower. Expensive enough that she'd only ever seen it in architectural magazines. The sedan pulled into an underground garage, past security gates that would have stopped a military convoy. They descended into warmth and LED lights, concrete tunnels lined with luxury vehicles worth more than most apartments. The car stopped. Decide, Lucien said. Sienna looked at the tablet, at the man beside her, dangerous, controlled, offering her everything she needed and nothing she wanted except revenge. She thought about Grayson's face when he'd dismissed her, Celeste's smile, the phones recording her collapse, the years it would take to climb back from that hole, if she ever could. She pressed her thumb to the signature line. The tablet beeped. Contract accepted. Welcome to the family, Lucien said, and something in his voice suggested this was the worst decision she'd ever make. The elevator ride to the penthouse took 47 floors and 0 words. Sienna watched numbers climb while trying to stop shaking. Her dress dripped rainwater onto marble floors. Her feet left bloody smears. Lucien stood perfectly still beside her, scrolling through his phone like he hadn't just collected a wife from an alley. The doors opened onto darkness. Then motion sensors activated and lights flooded a space too large to be called an apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson River. Minimalist furniture that probably cost more than her college tuition. Art on the walls, not prints, originals. Kitchen with appliances she didn't recognize. Everything cold, clean, expensive. Your room is down that hall. Last door, Lucien said, already walking toward what she assumed was his office. Bathroom attached. Closet stocked. Security detail will brief you tomorrow morning at 7. Don't leave the building without them. Don't contact anyone from your previous life without clearing it through Valentina first. Who's... A woman appeared from the shadows near the windows. Sienna jumped. The woman didn't. She looked like Lucien. Same dark hair, same sharp features, but feminine and somehow more dangerous. Younger, maybe mid-20s, wearing black tactical gear that suggested she'd been waiting here specifically to evaluate the new acquisition. Valentina Moretti, she said, not offering her hand. Lucien's sister, head of security. I run background on everyone who enters this building, and yours is interesting. Define interesting. Scholarship student, NYU architecture program. Graduated top 5% despite working 3 jobs. No criminal record. No debt except student loans you've been paying down aggressively. 1 speeding ticket in New Jersey. Social media presence that's about to explode. Valentina's smile had edges. You're either very smart or very desperate. Haven't decided which. Both, Sienna said. Valentina's expression shifted. Not quite approval, but close. Good. Desperate and stupid gets you killed in this world. Desperate and smart might get you through 6 months. Is that a threat? That's reality. You just signed a contract with a man most of this city fears. That makes you either protected or a target, depending on how you play this. Lucien cut in. She's protected. Make that clear to everyone. Already done. Valentina moved closer to Sienna, circling like a predator evaluating prey. But protected doesn't mean safe. You'll have a security detail everywhere you go. Bullet-resistant car. Panic button that connects directly to our response team. And rules. So many rules. I can handle rules? Can you handle armed men following you to the bathroom? Checking your food before you eat it? Screening every person you talk to? Having your entire life monitored because one mistake could start a war? Sienna's stomach turned. War? My brother has enemies. You're his wife now. That means you're leverage. Valentina stopped directly in front of her. So here's the deal. You do exactly what I say regarding security, or I pull you from public events and lock you in this building until the contract expires. Understood? I'm not a prisoner. No, you're an asset. There's a difference. Lucien's voice carried from across the room. Valentina, enough. His sister backed off, but her eyes stayed on Sienna. Welcome to the family. Try not to die. She left through a door Sienna hadn't noticed, disappearing like she'd never been there. The silence that followed felt heavier than the rain. Sienna turned to find Lucien watching her from his position near the office. He'd removed his jacket, loosened his tie, small concessions to comfort that made him look marginally less like a weapon in human form. You should rest, he said. Tomorrow starts early. What happens tomorrow? We get married. Civil ceremony, courthouse, minimal witnesses. Then we announce it. Announce to who? Everyone. He pulled out his phone, showed her a prepared press release already drafted. Billionaire developer Lucien Moretti weds rising architect Sienna Vale in surprise ceremony. Below it, photos of her, professional shots she'd had taken last year for her portfolio website, now repurposed. This goes out tomorrow afternoon. By evening, every news outlet in New York will be running the story. By midnight, Grayson Mercer will know exactly who you married. Sienna's chest tightened. That fast? Revenge doesn't wait. She stared at the press release, at her own face smiling back at her from a photograph taken when she'd still believed in futures and promises. Now that face would be everywhere, attached to a man she'd met an hour ago in an alley. What if I can't do this? She asked quietly. Lucien's expression didn't change. Then you've already lost. He walked away, disappearing into his office and closing the door with a sound that meant conversation over. Sienna stood alone in the massive penthouse, dripping rainwater onto floors that probably cost more per square foot than her entire apartment. Through the windows, Manhattan glittered like broken glass, beautiful and sharp and completely indifferent to her survival. Her phone. She'd left it in the alley. Cracked, abandoned, full of messages she'd never read. Everyone she knew probably thought she'd disappeared, run away, collapsed completely. They weren't wrong. She walked down the hall Lucien had indicated, found the bedroom, larger than her previous apartment, bed that could sleep 4 people, bathroom with a rainfall shower and soaking tub. The closet door stood open, revealing clothes that definitely hadn't been there yesterday. Someone had stocked it. Dresses, shoes, casual wear, all in her size, all expensive enough that she didn't recognize the brands. This was real. This was actually happening. Sienna sat on the edge of the bed and waited for panic to hit, for reality to crash through the shock and make her understand what she'd just agreed to. Instead, she felt nothing. Just cold. Just numb. Just the faint understanding that Sienna Vale, the woman who'd walked into that restaurant tonight, no longer existed. She'd been burned away in front of cameras and crowds. And whoever was sitting here now wearing her skin was someone else entirely. Someone who'd married a stranger for revenge. Someone who'd signed her life away for 6 months. Someone who'd looked Manhattan's most dangerous man in the eyes and said yes. She stood, stripped off the ruined dress, let it fall to the floor like a corpse, stepped into the shower and let scalding water pour over her until her skin turned red and her feet stopped bleeding and the last traces of who she used to be washed down the drain. Tomorrow she'd become Mrs. Lucien Moretti. Tonight she mourned the fool who'd believed in love. The courthouse ceremony took 11 minutes. Sienna wore a white dress that Valentina had delivered to her room at dawn. Designer, perfectly fitted, completely impersonal. Lucien wore the same dark suit from last night. 2 witnesses appeared, men she didn't recognize, hard-faced and silent, and a judge who spoke too fast, like she'd done this 1,000 times and didn't care about number 1001. Do you take this man? I do. Do you take this woman? I do. By the power vested in me, done. Married. Lucien slid a ring onto her finger, platinum band with a single black diamond that probably cost more than her student loans. She didn't have one for him. Nobody had mentioned that part. They signed papers, official documents that made this legal, binding, real. Then they left through a back entrance where a car waited, and Sienna officially became someone else. The press release went out at 2 p.m. By 2:47, her new phone, provided by Valentina that morning, encrypted, monitored, started lighting up with notifications. News alerts, social media explosions. Her name trending alongside Lucien? It's photos of them leaving the courthouse somehow already online despite the private exit. Manhattan worked fast when it wanted blood. Sienna sat in the penthouse living room, watching her phone screen fill with messages from numbers she didn't recognize. Reporters requesting comment. Former colleagues asking if it was true. People from her past crawling out of silence to suddenly care about her life. And then, Grayson. His name appeared on the screen like a curse. She stared at it, thumb hovering over the notification. What the hell did you do? Lucien appeared from his office, glanced at her phone, read the message from across the room. Don't answer, he said. I don't give him anything. He moved closer, took the phone gently from her hands. He doesn't deserve your words. Not today. Not ever. He's probably losing his mind. Good. Lucien's voice carried no satisfaction, just fact. Let him burn. That's what you wanted. He was right, but holding the power felt strange, foreign, like wearing someone else's skin. Lucien handed the phone back. We have an event tonight, charity gala at the Waterfront Hotel. Construction industry donors, political connections, press everywhere. You'll meet people who matter, smile, play the part, make them believe this is real. What if I can't? His eyes met hers. Then we both lose. The gala started at 8. Sienna spent 4 hours preparing. Valentina arrived with a team, hair, makeup, wardrobe specialist who transformed her into someone she barely recognized in the mirror. Sleek black gown that moved like water. Hair styled into something elegant and severe. Makeup that made her look older, sharper, like she belonged in rooms where decisions worth millions happened over cocktails. When she walked out of her bedroom, Lucien stopped mid-conversation with whoever he'd been talking to on his phone. Just for a second. Then his expression locked back into neutral, and he finished his call like she hadn't just stolen his breath. Ready? He asked. No. Yes. The car ride downtown felt like descending into hell. Sienna's hands wouldn't stop shaking. She pressed them flat against her thighs, trying to control the tremor, but it kept spreading, up her arms, into her chest, making her breathing shallow. Lucien noticed. "First time?" he asked. "What?" "Walking into a room full of predators. I've been to fundraisers, political events, with Grayson Mercer as your shield. Tonight you're the target." He shifted slightly, and his hand covered hers, not gentle, just firm, grounding. "They're going to test you, questions designed to make you stumble, references to things you don't understand, jokes at your expense disguised as compliments. Your job is simple. Don't react. Don't defend. Don't explain. Just smile and let them wonder." "That's it?" "That's everything." His thumb brushed across her knuckles once, then withdrew. "You're not Grayson's discarded fiancé anymore. You're Lucien Moretti's wife. That carries weight most of them can't imagine. Use it." The car pulled up to the hotel entrance. Flash photography erupted like gunfire. Reporters pressed against barriers, shouting questions that blurred together into noise. Cameras tracked their movement as Lucien stepped out first, then offered his hand to help her exit. The crowd's volume doubled when they saw her. Sienna's vision swam, but Lucien's hand stayed firm in hers, pulling her forward through the chaos toward the hotel entrance where security kept the worst of the press at bay. Inside, the ballroom gleamed. Different from the restaurant where Grayson had destroyed her, this was darker, more industrial chic, exposed brick and steel beams mixed with crystal chandeliers. Hundreds of people already mingling, drinking expensive wine, playing the games that kept New York's power structure functioning. Every conversation stopped when they entered. Every head turned. Sienna felt their stares like knives. "Mr. Moretti," someone called out, a man in his 60s, expensive suit, political donor face. "Congratulations on your marriage. Quite the surprise." Lucien's arm slid around Sienna's waist, possessive and deliberate. "Thank you, Senator. Allow me to introduce my wife, Sienna Moretti." The name still felt wrong in her ears. The senator's eyes crawled over her, evaluating, pricing. "Charming. I heard you're an architect." "I am. Fascinating." His tone suggested it wasn't. "What kind of architecture?" "Adaptive reuse. Historic preservation with modern functionality." "Ah." He'd already lost interest. "Well, best of luck with that." He moved away before she could respond. Lucien leaned close, breath against her ear. "See? Predators. You did fine." But her heart was hammering so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. More people approached. Each conversation a performance, each question a trap. Sienna felt herself splitting in two, the woman answering questions about her background, her work, her sudden marriage, and the woman screaming silently inside her skull that this was insane, unsustainable, wrong. Then she saw the blueprints. Spread across a display table near the back of the ballroom, architectural drawings for a waterfront development project. Large-scale mixed-use, residential and commercial, located somewhere along the Hudson based on the site context drawings. Sienna moved toward them without thinking. Lucien followed, still maintaining that possessive grip on her waist that broadcasted mind to everyone watching. She leaned over the blueprints, scanning details with professional focus. Floor plans, elevations, structural diagrams. Big project. Expensive. But something was wrong. "Problem?" Lucien asked quietly. "These calculations." She pointed at the structural engineering notes. "The foundation system doesn't account for soil conditions along that stretch of waterfront. This building would settle unevenly within 5 years. Probably less." "You're certain?" "I wrote my thesis on foundation design for waterfront construction. This is wrong, dangerously wrong." A voice cut in from behind them. "I hope you're not criticizing the West Side Harbor project." Sienna turned. The man standing there looked like money and violence had a child. Mid-40s, Italian suit, smile that didn't reach his eyes. 2 bodyguards flanked him, trying to look casual and failing. "Matteo De Luca," Lucien said, and something in his voice suggested history, bad history. "My wife was just admiring the blueprints." "Your wife?" Matteo's eyes locked onto Sienna. "The architect. How convenient." "The foundation system is flawed," Sienna heard herself say. "Whoever designed this didn't properly assess subsurface conditions. You're looking at massive settlement issues, potential structural failure." "Sienna," Lucien warned, but she was already committed. I'm not trying to offend anyone. I'm telling you there's a problem, a major problem. Before you invest millions into construction, you should what? Matteo's smile sharpened. Listen to a woman I met 30 seconds ago? Take advice from Lucien Moretti's brand new wife? He laughed, but it sounded like breaking glass. How much is he paying you to sabotage my project? The room had gone quiet. Sienna realized too late that everyone was watching, listening, recording. This project has been approved by the city's top engineers. Investors worth hundreds of millions are already committed. And you think you know better? Matteo stepped closer, invading her space deliberately. Who the hell do you think you are? Sienna's throat closed, but she didn't step back. I think I'm someone who understands soil mechanics and foundation design, she said quietly. And I think your engineers either made a mistake or didn't care. Either way, that building will fail. Matteo's face went dark. Enough, Lucien said, his voice dropping into something cold and final. He positioned himself between Sienna and Matteo with the kind of movement that suggested violence was one wrong word away. My wife offered professional observation. You're free to ignore it, but insult her again, and we'll have a different conversation. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Matteo smiled, but it looked like a wound. Of course. My apologies, Mrs. Moretti. I'm sure your expertise is valuable in certain contexts. He walked away, bodyguards following, leaving tension thick enough to cut. Sienna's hands were shaking again. We're leaving, Lucien said. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Now. He guided her toward the exit, arms still around her waist, moving with purpose. People parted like water. Sienna caught glimpses of faces. Some shocked, some amused, some calculating. They'd made it halfway across the ballroom when her phone buzzed. Then Lucy. Then what sounded like every phone in the room. Sienna pulled hers out. News alert. Breaking. Grayson Mercer's campaign under investigation. Illegal gambling debts exposed. Her breath stopped. Lucien's expression didn't change, but his grip on her waist tightened fractionally. What did you do? She whispered. What you paid for. They reached the car, got inside, door closing on the chaos behind them. Sienna stared at her phone, watching the story spread in real time. Photos of Grayson at underground poker games. Financial records showing debts to loan sharks connected to organized crime. Documents linking those debts to campaign finance violations. His career was burning down in front of the entire city. How? She asked. I told you, I know people. You did this in 24 hours? I did this in 3 hours. I've known about his debts for months, just needed the right moment to deploy it. Lucien finally looked at her. Revenge doesn't wait, remember? Sienna should have felt satisfied, victorious. Instead, she felt hollow. Matteo De Luca, she said, changing the subject. Who is he? Lucien's jaw tightened. Someone I used to work with, before I went legitimate. What kind of work? The kind that doesn't show up on tax returns. He looked at me like I was a threat. You are. You just cost him potential investors by exposing the foundation flaw. People who were at that gala will mention it to their engineers. Questions will be asked. The project might collapse before ground breaks. Lucien's eyes met hers. That was incredibly stupid and incredibly impressive. Which part? Calling out a crime boss in front of 200 witnesses. He's... What? Matteo De Luca runs half the construction corruption in this city. Unions, permits, inspections. He controls the machinery that makes buildings happen, and you just challenged him publicly. Lucien's expression went dark. Which means he's going to want to hurt you, badly. Which means security around you triples starting tomorrow. Sienna's stomach dropped. I didn't know. I know, but it doesn't matter. What matters is you're in danger now, real danger. And I can't protect you if you don't follow every single security protocol Valentina sets. I'll swear it. I swear. The car climbed through Manhattan toward the penthouse. Sienna watched the city slide past, trying to process everything that had just happened. Grayson destroyed. Matteo threatened. Her own survival suddenly depended on armed guards and bullet-resistant cars. 24 hours ago, she'd been wearing the wrong dress to an anniversary dinner. Now she was married to a dangerous man, embroiled in conflicts she didn't understand, playing a role she hadn't prepared for. When they reached the penthouse, Lucien headed straight to his office without another word. Sienna stood in the living room, still wearing the black gown, still trembling from adrenaline that wouldn't fade. Valentina appeared from nowhere. "Saw the news about the gala," she said. "You picked a fight with Matteo De Luca?" "I didn't know who he was." "Now you do. And now he knows who you are." Valentina pulled out a tablet, started typing rapidly. "Security detail increases to 4 guards minimum. No public appearances without advance notice. No." "Wait," Sienna's voice cracked. "What's happening? What did I actually do?" Valentina stopped, looked at her with something that might have been sympathy. "You became interesting," she said. "In this world, that's the most dangerous thing you can be." Somewhere in the building, a phone rang. Valentina answered it, listened, her expression going dark. She hung up. "What?" Sienna asked. "Construction site? One of Lucien's developments in Brooklyn. Someone just detonated explosives in the foundation." Valentina's eyes locked onto hers. "This is Matteo. He's sending a message." "What message?" Valentina's smile had no warmth. "That the war just started. The explosion had taken out 3 floors of foundation work." Sienna stood at the edge of the construction site, watching smoke curl into the dawn sky while Lucien spoke in rapid Italian to someone on his phone. The air tasted like concrete dust and burned electrical wiring. Police tape cordoned off the perimeter, but somehow Lucien's people had gotten them past the barriers, close enough to see the damage. Twisted rebar jutted from rubble like broken bones. What should have been a residential tower's foundation now looked like a war zone. Millions of dollars in structural work reduced to wreckage overnight. "Nobody was hurt," Valentina said beside her, voice flat. Site was empty. This wasn't about casualties. Then what was it about? Sending a message. Matteo wants Lucien to know he can reach inside his operations whenever he wants. Sienna pulled her coat tighter against the November cold. They'd driven here at 4 in the morning after Valentina received the call. No time to process. No time to think. Just thrown into a car and brought to see what her words at the gala had caused. "This is my fault," she said quietly. "No." Valentina's tone allowed no argument. "This is Matteo being Matteo. You just gave him an excuse to do what he's been planning anyway." Lucien finished his call and walked toward them, face carved from stone. "Forensics confirmed C4. Professional placement. Whoever did this knew exactly where to hit for maximum structural damage, with minimal evidence." "Matteo's demolition crew," Valentina said. "Obviously." Lucien's eyes swept the destruction without emotion, like he was calculating losses in a language Sienna didn't speak. "How much to rebuild?" 3 million. 4 if we want to accelerate timeline. "Do it. I want crews here by noon." "Lucien," Sienna started. "Not now." His voice cut like steel. He walked past her toward the site trailer where engineers were already gathering, leaving her standing in the cold with Valentina and the taste of guilt thick in her throat. "He's not angry at you," Valentina said, reading her expression. "Could have fooled me. He's angry at himself. For bringing you into this. For thinking he could keep you separate from the violence." She turned to face Sienna fully. "My brother spent 5 years building walls between his legitimate business and his past. You've been his wife for 48 hours, and those walls are already crumbling. I didn't ask for this. No, you asked for revenge. This is what it costs." A black SUV pulled up to the site entrance. 2 men got out, not construction workers. They moved with the same predator grace as Lucien's security team, but their suits were different. Federal cuts, government precision. "Shit," Valentina muttered. The men approached Lucien at the trailer. Brief conversation. Lucien's expression never changed, but his posture shifted fractionally. Whatever they were saying, he didn't like it. One of the men glanced towards Sienna. Her stomach dropped. Lucien gestured sharply. "Stay there," then walked with the federal agents toward a section of the site away from the workers. "Who are they?" Sienna asked. "FBI. Organized Crime Task Force." Valentina's jaw tightened. "They've been trying to build a case against Matteo for years. This explosion just gave them fresh evidence to start asking questions. About Matteo? About everyone, including Lucien. The conversation lasted 10 minutes that felt like hours. Sienna watched Lucien's body language, controlled, careful, giving nothing away. But the federal agents kept pressing, kept gesturing toward the rubble, toward documentation one of them carried. Finally, they shook hands. The agents left. Lucien walked back toward the car like nothing had happened. What did they want? Valentina asked when he reached them. Cooperation. They know Matteo did this. They want me to testify when they build their case. And you said? I said I'd consider it. Lucien's eyes met Sienna's. We're leaving, now. The car ride back to the penthouse was silent, except for the sound of Lucien's fingers on his phone keyboard, typing messages too fast to read. Sienna watched Manhattan wake up through tinted windows, delivery trucks, early commuters, the city grinding forward without caring who'd been blown up overnight. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then something made her press accept. Sienna Vale. The voice was male, smooth, carrying an accent that matched Matteo's. Or should I say Moretti, now. Her blood went cold. Who is this? Lucien's head snapped toward her. Someone who admires your work. That analysis of my waterfront project. Very impressive. Wrong, of course, but impressive. Matteo, you remember me. I'm flattered. Background noise suggested he was calling from somewhere public. Restaurant, maybe. I wanted to call personally and apologize for my reaction at the gala. You caught me off guard. What do you want? To extend an invitation. Lunch, tomorrow. Just you and me. No bodyguards, no husbands, no drama. I'd like to discuss your architectural concerns in detail. Sienna's hand tightened on the phone. I'm not having lunch with you. No? Pity. I thought you'd want to discuss the structural issues before more accidents happen. His voice dropped. Construction sites are dangerous places. Equipment failures. Scaffolding collapses. So many ways people get hurt. Is that a threat? That's a reality check. You entered a world you don't understand, Mrs. Moretti. I'm offering you a chance to understand it better before you get crushed by it. The line went dead. Sienna lowered the phone slowly, blood roaring in her ears. What did he say? Lucien's voice was dangerously quiet. He wants to meet. Lunch tomorrow. Alone. Absolutely not. He threatened more accidents. I don't care what he threatened. You are not meeting Matteo De Luca alone. Lucien leaned forward, spoke to the driver in Italian. The car accelerated. Valentina, I want full security lockdown. Nobody gets near her without clearance. Already done, Valentina said from the front seat, phone pressed to her ear, coordinating something. Sienna's chest felt tight. I can't just hide. Yes, you can. That's exactly what you're going to do. For how long? As long as it takes. To do what? You can't just wait out a crime, boss. Lucien's eyes were black ice. Watch me. They reached the penthouse before sunrise finished bleeding across the Hudson. Sienna barely made it to her room before her legs gave out. She sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing yesterday's clothes, staring at her hands while they shook. She'd done this. Called out Matteo De Luca in front of investors and witnesses, cost him money and reputation, painted a target on herself and Lucien, and everyone connected to them. And for what? Professional pride? An inability to keep her mouth shut when she saw bad engineering? Her phone rang again. Different number. Also unknown. She stared at it, debating. Answered. Sienna. Grayson's voice hit like acid. What the fuck are you doing? You married Lucien Moretti? Are you insane? Do you have any idea what kind of man he is? Better than you. Better than... Jesus Christ, Sienna, he's a criminal. Everyone knows it. The FBI has been investigating him for years. And yet, he's never been charged with anything. That's not... Grayson's voice cracked. Is this about me? About the engagement? Because if you did this to get back at me, not everything is about you, Grayson. The hell it isn't. 3 days ago, you were crying in that restaurant. Now you're married to the most dangerous man in New York? That's not moving on. That's self-destruction. Sienna laughed, sharp and bitter. You're one to talk about self-destruction. How's the campaign going? Oh, wait, it's over, isn't it? All those gambling debts finally caught up. Silence. Then, that was him. Lucien destroyed my career. You destroyed your own career. He just made sure everyone knew about it. I loved you. You loved how I made you look. Rising political star with the self-made fiancé. Good optics. But the second Celeste Whitmore came along with her family connections and trust fund, I became disposable. That's not... Don't lie to me, Grayson. Not anymore. You humiliated me in front of 200 people because it was politically convenient. You wanted to trade up, and you wanted everyone to watch me fall. Well, congratulations. You got your spectacle, and I got my revenge. She hung up before he could respond. Her hands were shaking worse now, whole body trembling with rage or fear, or the terrible understanding that she'd just burned every bridge to her old life without knowing if the new one would hold. A knock on her door. Come in, she said without thinking. Lucien entered, still wearing the same clothes from the construction site. Concrete dust on his shoulders. Exhaustion carved into his features. Valentina told me you got another call, he said. Grayson, checking in to make sure I'm destroying my life properly. Are you? The question hung between them. Sienna met his eyes. I don't know anymore. Lucien moved further into the room, stopped a few feet away, close enough that she could see the tension in his jaw, the way his hands flexed like he wanted to hit something but couldn't find a target. I'm sorry, he said. She blinked. For what? Bringing you into this? I thought I could keep you separate. Use the marriage as a business tool without exposing you to the violence. I was wrong. You gave me a choice. I gave you a choice when you were broken and desperate. That's not really a choice. I'm not some victim you rescued. No, you're a weapon I'm not qualified to handle. He rubbed his face, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked genuinely uncertain. You challenged Matteo without fear because you didn't know you should be afraid. That kind of courage in this world gets people killed. Then teach me. What? Teach me how to survive here, the rules, the dangers, who to fear, and who to challenge. Sienna stood, closing the distance between them. You wanted a wife who could play the part convincingly. Fine. Make me convincing. Stop treating me like glass that's going to shatter. Lucien stared at her. You have no idea what you're asking. Then explain it to me. The world I come from doesn't have explanations. It has bodies and survivors. You survive by being smart enough to know when to hide and when to strike, by understanding that loyalty means nothing and power means everything, by accepting that everyone you love becomes a target. Everyone you loved, Sienna said quietly. Your first wife. His expression went completely blank. Valentina mentioned her, said she was murdered because she loved you. Valentina talks too much. Was she? Lucien turned away, walked to the window overlooking the Hudson. Dawn light cut across his profile, making him look carved from shadow. Her name was Isabella. We married when I was 23, before the empire, before the reputation, back when I still believed love was stronger than violence. He stopped. Sienna waited. She was an artist, painted murals across Brooklyn. Beautiful, chaotic, completely fearless. His voice went quieter. A rival, someone who wanted my territory, kidnapped her, held her for 3 days, sent me pieces of her paintings as proof they had her. I paid the ransom, got her back alive. Then she left me, said she couldn't live with the fear, couldn't wake up every day wondering if today was the day someone would use her to hurt me. He pressed his palm against the glass. I let her go. Thought she'd be safer away from me. 2 months later, she was crossing a street in Manhattan when a car mounted the sidewalk and killed her. Driver was never found. Sienna's chest tightened. It wasn't an accident, Lucien continued. It was a message. That even if she left, even if we weren't together anymore, she was still connected to me, still a target. And I couldn't protect her because I'd let her walk away. That wasn't your fault. Wasn't it? He turned to face her. I built an empire on violence and thought I could keep the people I loved separate from it. I was wrong then. I'm probably wrong now. I'm not Isabella. No, you're worse. Because Isabella knew what she was getting into. She grew up around this world. You're walking blind into dangers you can't even recognize. Sienna moved closer until she stood directly in front of him. Then open my eyes. Lucien looked at her like she was a bomb he didn't know how to defuse. Then he kissed her. Hard. Sudden. Nothing romantic about it, just raw need and frustration and fear translated into physical contact. His hand came up to cup the back of her neck, fingers tangling in her hair, holding her in place while his mouth claimed hers with an intensity that stole her breath. Sienna froze for half a second, then kissed him back just as hard. Her hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, needing the contact to anchor her against the chaos spinning through her head. This wasn't supposed to happen. Contract marriage, no romance, no intimacy, rules they'd agreed to, rules that were currently burning to ash. Lucien pulled back abruptly, breathing hard. That was a mistake, Sienna finished, but her voice shook. Yes. We have a contract. I know. No romance. No. I know what we agreed to. He stepped back, putting distance between them like it physically hurt. It won't happen again. Lucien, get some sleep. We have another event tomorrow night. You need to be ready. He left without looking back. Sienna stood alone in her bedroom, lips still burning from the kiss, entire body shaking with adrenaline and want, and the terrible understanding that their careful boundaries had just shattered. This was supposed to be simple. Revenge. Money. 6 months. Instead, it was becoming something else entirely. Something that could destroy them both. The event was a gallery opening in Chelsea. Modern art mixed with political fundraising, the kind of event where Manhattan's elite pretended to care about culture while actually caring about connections. Sienna wore a red dress that Valentina had selected, something bold and unapologetic that made heads turn when they entered. Lucien kept his distance. Not obviously. To anyone watching, they looked like a married couple, his hand occasionally at her lower back, guiding her through crowds, introducing her to investors and developers and people whose names she'd only seen in headlines. But the warmth from that morning was gone, replaced by professional courtesy and careful space. Sienna hated it. Hated how much she wanted him to touch her again. Hated that a single kiss had rewired something in her brain. This wasn't the deal. She was supposed to use him for revenge, take her money, walk away clean, not develop feelings. Definitely not develop feelings for a man who'd warned her explicitly that everyone he loved ended up dead. Mrs. Moretti. A woman's voice cut through her thoughts. Sienna turned to find Celeste Whitmore standing there, champagne glass in hand, smile sharp as broken glass. Her stomach dropped. Celeste looked perfect. Cream pantsuit, hair styled in effortless waves, the kind of beauty that came from money and genetics working in harmony. She tilted her head, examining Sienna like an interesting insect. I had to see for myself, Celeste said. The woman who married Lucien Moretti 48 hours after getting publicly dumped. That takes either incredible resilience or spectacular desperation. Celeste, Sienna kept her voice level. Congratulations on your engagement. Thank you. Though I suppose congratulations are in order for you as well. She sipped her champagne, eyes never leaving Sienna's face. Tell me, how does it feel being a rebound wife? How does it feel being second choice? Celeste's smile froze. Grayson proposed to me first, Sienna continued, voice quiet enough that only Celeste could hear. Spent 2 years building a life with me. You got him after his career imploded and his debts became public. So if we're comparing rebounds, I'd say you're losing. His career will recover. Will it? Last I checked, federal investigations don't disappear because you're engaged to a trust fund. Celeste's fingers tightened on her champagne glass. You think you've won something, marrying Lucien Moretti, entering this world. But you're just a temporary distraction. 6 months from now, you'll be divorced and forgotten while I'll still be here. Maybe, but for these 6 months, I have everything you wish you could touch. Such as? Power. Sienna leaned closer. Real power, not inherited money or family connections. The kind of power that makes people afraid. Grayson never had that. He was always just playing dress-up in his father's suits. But Lucien, he built his empire from nothing, and for 6 months, that empire includes me. Celeste's expression went cold. Enjoy it while it lasts. She walked away, heels clicking on polished concrete. Sienna's hands were shaking. What the hell was she doing? Picking fights with heiresses? Talking about power like she understood it. 24 hours ago, she'd been terrified. Now she was weaponizing her position as Lucien's wife like she'd been born to it. That was interesting. Lucien appeared beside her, having materialized from somewhere in the crowd. His expression was unreadable. She started it. I'm sure she did. But finishing it in front of a room full of witnesses who are already watching you too closely, that was reckless. I'm getting good at reckless. That's what worries me. Before she could respond, Valentina cut through the crowd toward them, face grim. We need to leave, she said quietly. What happened? Lucien asked. Security just intercepted a package addressed to Sienna, left at the penthouse front desk 20 minutes ago. What kind of package? Valentina pulled out her phone, showed them a photo. Sienna's stomach turned. It was a photograph, black and white, taken from a distance with a telephoto lens. Her walking into the penthouse building that morning, coffee in hand, completely unaware she was being watched. Across the bottom, someone had written in red marker, "Beautiful targets are the easiest to hit." Matteo, Lucien said, voice like gravel. His style. His message. Valentina pocketed her phone. We need to move her somewhere secure until... No. Both women looked at him. No more hiding, Lucien continued. Matteo wants a reaction. Wants us scared and defensive. We're not giving him that. He's threatening to kill her, Valentina said. He's threatening to kill the idea of her, the symbol of my wife. But Sienna Vale, he looked at her. Sienna Vale doesn't scare easy. Do you? She should say yes. Should admit that this photograph had made her hand shake and her vision blur, that she'd never been this afraid in her entire life. Instead, she heard herself say, No, I don't. Then we stay. We continue attending events. We show Matteo that his threats mean nothing. That's insane, Valentina said. That's strategy. He expects us to hide. We attack instead. Attack how? Lucien's smile had edges. Sienna exposed one flawed project. Let's find all of them. Every development Matteo has in planning or construction, we audit them. Use Sienna's expertise to identify structural problems, code violations, anything that could cost him investors or permits. Make him defend his empire instead of attacking ours. Sienna's pulse quickened. You want me to go after his projects? I want you to destroy them, professionally, legally, in ways he can't retaliate against without exposing himself. That'll take weeks, maybe months of review work. Then we'd better start tonight. Valentina looked between them like they'd both lost their minds. This is a terrible idea. You have a better one? Lucien challenged. Yes. Lock her in a safe house until Matteo gets bored or we eliminate him. He won't get bored, and eliminating him starts a war I'm trying to avoid. Lucien's voice hardened. This is happening, Valentina. Make it work. His sister stared at him for a long moment, then nodded, jaw tight, and pulled out her phone to start coordinating whatever nightmare logistics this plan required. Lucien turned to Sienna. Can you do this? Review construction projects for fatal flaws? That's literally my job. I mean, can you handle being the target while doing it? Because the second we start auditing his developments, Matteo will escalate. More threats. More violence. Maybe worse. Sienna thought about the photograph, about Grayson's humiliation, about every person who'd ever told her she didn't belong in rooms where decisions worth millions got made. I can handle it, she said. You're certain? Are you? Something flickered in his eyes, respect maybe, or fear, or both tangled together. No, he admitted, but I'm out of better options. They left the gallery 10 minutes later, Sienna's red dress drawing eyes as they cut through the crowd toward the exit. Outside, the SUV waited with 4 security guards instead of the usual 2. The drive back to the penthouse felt like moving through a war zone. Every car a potential threat, every shadow-hiding danger she couldn't name. When they reached the penthouse, Lucien disappeared into his office. Sienna followed. We need to talk, she said, closing the door behind her. He looked up from his desk where blueprints and development documents already covered every surface. About what? This morning. The kiss. I said it was a mistake. Was it? Lucien's jaw tightened. Yes. You're lying. Sienna, you felt what I felt. That wasn't a mistake. That was inevitable. She moved closer to his desk. We've been circling each other since the alley, pretending this is just business, just a contract. But it stopped being that the second you kissed me. It has to stay business. That's the only way this works. Why? Because everyone I've ever cared about ends up dead. His voice cracked through the office. Isabella died because she loved me. My parents died in retaliation for deals my father made. Even Valentina, she's only alive because she's more dangerous than the people who'd want to kill her. Love is a weakness in my world, Sienna, and I can't afford weaknesses. So what, you're going to spend 6 months pretending you don't want me? If that's what it takes to keep you alive, yes. Sienna laughed, bitter and sharp. You really think distance will protect me? Matteo already sent a death threat. I'm already a target. Your feelings don't change that. They make it worse. How? Because if he realizes I actually care about you, if anyone realizes you're more than a contract wife, then you become the ultimate leverage. The one thing they can use to destroy me completely. Lucien stood, circling the desk until he faced her directly. I can protect an asset. I can't protect someone I love. The word hung between them. Love. He'd said it without meaning to, and now it couldn't be taken back. Sienna's breath caught. You love me? He stopped, closed his eyes. I don't know what I feel, but it's more than I should, more than I can afford. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. They stood inches apart, the air between them electric with want and fear and all the things they couldn't say. Sienna reached up, cupped his face with one hand. Lucien's eyes open, dark and desperate. I'm already in danger, she said quietly. Your love or lack of it doesn't change that. So stop pretending distance will save me. It won't. The only thing that might is if we stop lying to each other about what this is becoming. And what is it becoming? Something real. He pulled her hand away from his face but held it between them. Real gets people killed. So does fake. At least with real, I'd die knowing you gave a damn. Lucien's grip tightened on her hand. For a moment, she thought he might kiss her again, might stop fighting whatever was building between them and just surrender to it. Instead, he let go. Get some rest, he said, voice hollow. Tomorrow we start auditing Matteo's projects. You'll need your focus. He turned back to his desk, effectively dismissing her. Sienna stood there for another moment, chest aching with words she couldn't force past her throat. Then she left. The hallway back to her room stretched like a prison corridor. She made it halfway before her legs gave out, pressed her back against the wall, slid down to the floor, and finally let herself feel everything she'd been holding back. Terror, rage, want, grief for a life she'd lost and a future she couldn't predict. Her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. She was so tired of unknown numbers. But she answered anyway. Mrs. Moretti, Matteo's voice again. I hope you received my gift. The photograph? Subtle. I thought so. But apparently subtlety isn't working, so let me be direct. Background noise suggested he was in a car. Your husband thinks he can use you as a weapon against my developments. He's wrong. If you audit even one more of my projects, I will kill someone you love. Not you. That would be too easy. But someone close to you. Maybe your mother in Connecticut. Maybe that college roommate in Boston. I have a list. Would you like to hear it? Sienna's blood went cold. You're bluffing. Am I? Your mother's name is Patricia Vale, works at the Fairfield County Library, drives a 2019 Honda Civic, lives alone in a 2-bedroom house on Maple Street. He paused. Should I continue? If you touch her, then don't give me a reason to. Stay out of my business and your loved ones stay safe. It's simple mathematics. The line went dead. Sienna sat on the hallway floor, phone clutched in her shaking hand, and realized she'd just reached the point of no return. Matteo knew about her mother, had people watching her, could kill anyone she cared about with a phone call. This wasn't a game anymore. This was war. And she had no idea how to win it. She stood on unsteady legs, walked to Lucien's office, opened the door without knocking. He looked up, saw her face, and immediately moved toward her. What happened? Matteo called. He knows about my mother, where she lives, what she drives, everything. Sienna's voice came out hollow. He said if I audit another one of his projects, he'll kill someone I love. Not me. Someone else. To make me suffer. Lucien's expression went dark. When? Just now, 2 minutes ago. He pulled out his phone, started typing rapidly. Valentina, I need security on Patricia Vale in Connecticut. Immediately. Full protection detail, relocated to a secure location tonight. Valentina's voice crackled through speakerphone. What level threat? Imminent. Mateo just made direct threats against her life. Understood. I'll have a team there within the hour. Lucien hung up, focused back on Sienna. Your mother will be safe. I promise. How can you promise that? He knows where she is, probably has people watching her right now. Because I'm better at this than he is. Lucien's voice carried absolute certainty. Mateo makes loud threats. I make quiet protections. Your mother will disappear into a security network he can't penetrate. She'll be untouchable. For how long? As long as necessary. Sienna's chest felt tight. This is escalating too fast. The explosion, the photograph, now threats against my family. Where does it end? It ends when one of us breaks. And if I break first? Lucien moved closer, close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight of violence he carried like armor. You won't. How do you know? Because you're still standing here instead of running. Because you got into my car in that alley when any sane person would have walked away. Because you challenged Matteo De Luca in a room full of witnesses without knowing you should be terrified. His hand came up, almost touched her face, then dropped. You don't break easily, Sienna. That's what makes you dangerous, and that's what's going to keep you alive. She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that his protection was enough, that Valentina's security networks were impenetrable, that her mother would be safe. But belief was a luxury she couldn't afford anymore. I need to call her, Sienna said. Warn her. No, that tips Mateo off that we know about the threat. Let Valentina's team extract her quietly. By the time Mateo realizes she's gone, she'll be in a secure location he can't find. She'll be terrified. She'll be alive. The logic was sound, but it still felt like abandoning her mother to violence Sienna had brought into both their lives. Her phone buzzed again. Grayson this time. She almost didn't answer. Then thought, what else could possibly go wrong tonight? What? She said when she accepted the call. I need to meet with you. Grayson's voice sounded strained, frightened. Tomorrow. Alone. It's important. I'm not meeting you alone. Sienna, please, He stopped, sound of traffic in the background. I made a mistake, a bad one, and I need your help. My help? You destroyed me in front of 200 people and now you want help? I know I don't deserve it, but I'm desperate and you're the only person who might understand. Understand what? I can't say over the phone. Just, please, meet me tomorrow. 1 hour. Public place. I swear it's not a trick. Sienna looked at Lucien, who was watching her with an expression that suggested he could hear both sides of the conversation. What kind of mistake? She asked Grayson. The kind that gets people killed. He hung up. Sienna lowered her phone slowly. Don't, Lucien said. Don't what? Whatever you're thinking, don't meet him. Don't get involved. Don't let him pull you back into his chaos. He sounded scared. He should be. His career is destroyed. His debts are public. He's probably being threatened by the same people he owes money to. Lucien's voice hardened. That's not your problem. He said it's the kind of mistake that gets people killed. Then he should have thought about that before making it. Lucien. No. He stepped closer, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw genuine fear in his eyes. You're not meeting Grayson Mercer. You're already a target for Mateo. I'm not letting you become one for whoever's threatening Grayson too. What if it's connected? What if Mateo is threatening both of us? Then Grayson made his own bed with those gambling debts. Let him lie in it. Sienna's jaw tightened. That's cold. That's survival. You want to save everyone? Fine. But you can't save them all. Choose who matters and protect them ruthlessly. Everyone else is collateral damage. Is that what I am? Collateral damage you're trying to minimize? He stopped. Ran a hand through his hair in frustration. You're the only person in this entire mess I'm trying to save. Don't make that impossible by throwing yourself at every threat that calls your phone. They stared at each other. The air between them felt combustible. I'm meeting him, Sienna said quietly. The hell you are. Not alone. With security. In public. But I'm meeting him. Because if there's even a chance this connects to Mateo, if Grayson knows something that could help us, then I need to hear it. Lucien's expression went flat. This is a mistake. Then add it to the list. She walked out before he could argue further. Back in her room, Sienna sat on the edge of the bed and tried to slow her racing heart. Everything was spiraling. Mateo's threats, her mother in danger, Grayson's mysterious call, the kiss that had broken their careful boundaries, Lucien's confession that he might love her too much, too fast. She was 28 years old and drowning in violence she didn't understand, making decisions that could get people killed, playing a role she hadn't prepared for. Her reflection stared back from the window, red dress, perfect makeup, the image of a billionaire's wife. But underneath, she was still just Sienna Vale, scholarship student who'd believed hard work and talent were enough, who'd thought love meant forever, who'd never imagined that 3 days after getting publicly humiliated, she'd be married to a crime lord, targeted by his enemies, and falling for a man who'd warned her that love was a death sentence. Her phone buzzed one more time. Text from an unknown number, just 4 words. TikTok, Mrs. Moretti. Mateo, reminding her that he was watching, waiting, ready to strike the moment she made a mistake. Sienna deleted the text, stood up, walked to her closet and started looking for something appropriate to wear to meet her ex-fiancé while surrounded by armed bodyguards. Because if she was going down fighting. And maybe, just maybe, Grayson's mistake was the key to understanding how to survive Mateo's war. She just had to stay alive long enough to find out. The coffee shop was in Midtown, anonymous and crowded enough that nobody would pay attention to a meeting between a disgraced political operative and a billionaire's wife surrounded by bodyguards. Sienna arrived 15 minutes early, flanked by 2 of Valentina's best, a woman named Kira with dead eyes and a scar across her jawline, and a man called Roman who moved like violence was his first language. They took positions at adjacent tables, close enough to intervene, far enough to maintain the illusion of privacy. Grayson showed up late. He looked terrible. Suit wrinkled, hair unwashed, the kind of exhaustion that came from not sleeping for days. Dark circles under his eyes, hands shaking when he pulled out the chair across from Sienna. "You actually came," he said, voice hoarse. "You said people might die. That tends to get my attention." He glanced at her security detail. "Can they?" "No, they stay. You want privacy, you should have thought about that before destroying me in public." Grayson flinched. Deserved that. He ordered coffee he wouldn't drink. Sienna already had hers, black, bitter, matching her mood. "I fucked up," Grayson started. "Worse than you know. Worse than anyone knows. Your gambling debts? Already public, old news. Not the debts. What I did to pay them off." He leaned forward, voice dropping to barely audible. "I gave information to Matteo De Luca about Lucien's operations, construction schedules, security protocols, project timelines, everything I could access through political channels." Sienna's blood went cold. "What?" "I was desperate. The people I owed money to, they weren't asking nicely anymore. They were threatening to break my legs. Worse, Matteo approached me 6 weeks ago, said he'd clear my debts if I fed him intel on Lucien Moretti." 6 weeks ago. That was before the gala, before you dumped me." "Yeah." Grayson couldn't meet her eyes. "I was already working with Matteo when I ended our engagement. He wanted me unattached, said it would be easier for me to move in political circles without a fiancé who asked too many questions." The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. "The restaurant," Sienna said slowly. "That whole spectacle. You didn't do that for Celeste. You did it because Matteo told you to. He wanted you humiliated, broken, out of my life completely. I didn't know why at the time. I thought he just wanted leverage over me." Grayson's hands trembled worse. "But now I think he was planning this from the beginning. Knew you'd end up with Lucien somehow. Wanted you vulnerable when it happened." Sienna's chest felt tight. "That's insane. How would he know I'd marry Lucien?" "I don't know, but Matteo doesn't make moves without planning 10 steps ahead. He knew something." Grayson finally looked at her. "And now he's using me to feed him information about both of you. Every security protocol you follow, every event you attend, every vulnerability in Lucien's operations. Stop giving him information." "I can't. He owns me now." The debt might be cleared, but he has recordings of every conversation we've had. Proof I committed treason against someone half this city fears. If I stop cooperating, he releases everything and I'm dead within a week. So why tell me? Because he's escalating. The explosion at Lucien's construction site, that was my intel. I told Matteo when the site would be empty. He used it to place the explosives without casualties. Grayson's voice cracked. But yesterday he asked me about civilian targets. Your mother, your friends, people who have nothing to do with this war. And I realized he's going to kill them. Use the information I give him to murder innocent people. And I can't live with that. Sienna wanted to reach across the table and strangle him. Instead, she kept her voice level. What do you want from me? Help. Protection. A way out of this that doesn't end with me dead in an alley. You want Lucien to protect you. I want you to convince him to protect me, in exchange for everything I know about Matteo's operations, locations, contacts, financial networks. I've been documenting everything for weeks. If Lucien can use it, if it helps him destroy Matteo, then maybe I can survive this. Sienna stared at the man she'd almost married, the man who'd publicly destroyed her to satisfy a crime boss's demands, who'd been feeding information to their enemy while pretending to be a victim. You expect me to believe you've suddenly grown a conscience? I expect you to believe I'm terrified and desperate and out of options. Grayson pulled a thumb drive from his jacket pocket, slid it across the table. That's everything. Bank accounts, shell companies, dirty cops on Matteo's payroll, judges he owns. 6 weeks of documentation. Take it. Give it to Lucien. Tell him I'll testify if he can keep me alive long enough to do it. Sienna picked up the drive. Small. Innocuous. Potentially enough to destroy Matteo's entire operation. Or a trap. How do I know this is real? She asked. You don't. But you know I'm not smart enough to fake this level of detail. Grayson's laugh came out broken. I'm a failed politician with gambling debts, not a criminal mastermind. This is real because I'm not capable of manufacturing it. He stood, leaving his untouched coffee behind. I'll wait for Lucien's answer, but don't wait too long. Matteo's planning something big, soon, and when it happens, a lot of people are going to die. He walked out. Sienna sat alone at the table, thumb drive burning in her palm, while Kira and Roman closed ranks around her. We need to go, Kira said quietly. Now. They moved as a unit toward the exit, through midtown crowds, back to the armored SUV waiting at the curb. Sienna climbed in, still clutching the drive, mind spinning through possibilities. Grayson was lying, or telling the truth, or, worst option, telling partial truth wrapped in enough lies to make it lethal. Her phone rang before they'd gone 2 blocks. Lucien. Tell me you're in the car, he said without preamble. I'm in the car. What did Grayson want? Information exchange. He claims he's been feeding intel to Matteo for 6 weeks. Gave me a drive with everything he's documented. Wants protection in exchange for testimony. Silence on the other end. Then, bring the drive directly to me. Don't stop. Don't talk to anyone. And Sienna? Yeah? If this is a trap, we'll know within an hour of plugging that drive into anything connected to our network. And if it is? If Grayson just handed you malware designed to destroy our security systems, he's a dead man. Understood. Lucien hung up. The drive back to this penthouse took 12 minutes that felt like hours. Sienna watched Manhattan slide past. Oblivious people living oblivious lives, completely unaware that somewhere in this city, men were making decisions that would determine who lived and died. When they reached the building, Valentina met them in the garage. Lucien's waiting in the secure room, she said, taking the thumb drive from Sienna's hand with latex gloves. This gets analyzed in isolation before it touches anything important. What's a secure room? Place where we handle things that could explode, digitally or literally. They descended deeper into the building, sub-basements Sienna hadn't known existed, concrete corridors with security checkpoints every 50 feet. Finally, a reinforced door that required 3 different authentication methods to open. Inside looked like a military command center crossed with a tech startup. Screens covering one wall, multiple workstations, equipment Sienna couldn't identify, and Lucien, standing at the center of it all, looking like he belonged in a war room. Let's see what your ex-fiancé brought us, he said. Valentina inserted the drive into an isolated computer. Air-gapped, no network connection, built specifically for analyzing potentially hostile data. The screen lit up with folders, hundreds of files, financial records, photographs, audio recordings, shipping manifests, property deeds. Lucien started opening files at random, scanning contents with the speed of someone who'd done this before. His expression went darker with each folder. "This is real," he said finally. "Too detailed to be fabricated, too specific to be guesswork." "Could it be a trap?" Sienna asked. "Possibly, but if it is, it's the most elaborate one I've ever seen." He opened an audio file. Grayson's voice played through speakers, talking to someone about construction permits and bribe amounts. Clear, incriminating. He's been wearing a wire, recording conversations with Matteo's people for weeks. "Why?" Valentina asked. "If he's working for Matteo, why document everything?" "Insurance," Lucien said. "Or an exit strategy. Maybe both." He kept scanning files, pulling up photographs of men Sienna didn't recognize, meeting in parking garages, exchanging briefcases, the kind of surveillance that took serious commitment. Grayson knew this partnership would eventually become a noose. He was building leverage in case he needed to run. "And now he's running to you," Sienna said. "Convenient timing, right when Matteo escalates against us." Lucien closed the files, leaned back against the desk. This could be legitimate intelligence from someone desperate to survive. Or it could be bait designed to make us move against Matteo prematurely, into a trap he's prepared. So what do? We verify. Cross-reference everything on this drive against what we already know about Matteo's operations. If it checks out, if the details match our independent intelligence, then maybe Grayson's telling the truth. And if he is? Lucien's eyes met hers. Then we use it to destroy Matteo De Luca completely. The verification took 6 hours. Sienna watched Lucien and Valentina work with a team she hadn't known existed. Analysts, former intelligence operatives, people who spoke in abbreviations and moved through databases like predators hunting prey. They cross-referenced Grayson's files against surveillance footage, financial records, informant reports. Every detail checked out. The shell companies existed. The property deeds matched. The people in photographs were confirmed associates of Matteo's organization. The audio recordings contained information that aligned perfectly with intercepted communications. By midnight, the picture was clear. Grayson had handed them a roadmap to Matteo's entire operation. "This is too good," Valentina said, staring at the compiled analysis. "Nobody gets this lucky." "It's not luck," Lucien Moretti replied. "It's desperation. Grayson knows Matteo will eventually kill him. This is his only play. Or it's a setup. Give us real intelligence mixed with false leads. Get us to move against targets that are actually traps. Possible, which is why we don't move until we've verified every location independently." Sienna had been silent for hours, processing. Now she spoke. "There's another option." Both Morettis looked at her. "What if we use Grayson as bait?" she continued. "Tell Matteo that Grayson approached us, that he tried to turn informant. Let Matteo think we rejected him. Then watch what Matteo does to his own leak." Lucien's expression shifted. "That's cold." "That's strategy. You said it yourself. Choose who matters and protect them ruthlessly. Grayson doesn't matter. He destroyed me, betrayed you, and got people hurt. Why protect him? Because using him as bait makes us as ruthless as Matteo. And that's a problem?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Valentina broke the silence. "She has a point. We feed Matteo false information through Grayson, make him think he still has his informant. Use the channel to manipulate Matteo's moves while we dismantle his operation using the real intelligence." "That requires keeping Grayson alive and cooperative," Lucien said. "He's desperate enough. Threaten to expose him if he doesn't play along. He'll do it." Sienna watched Lucien think it through. Saw the moment he made the decision, shoulders straightening, expression hardening into something that looked like acceptance. "Set it up," he told Valentina. "But I want eyes on Grayson 24/7. The second he deviates from script, we burn him." Valentina nodded, already pulling out her phone. Lucien turned to Sienna. "You understand what you just proposed? Using my ex-fiancé as an expendable asset in a criminal war? Yeah, I understand." "And you're comfortable with that?" She thought about the restaurant, the humiliation, the weeks of rebuilding herself from nothing, the explosion, the threats against her mother. Completely, she said. Something flickered in Lucien's eyes. Approval, maybe. Or concern that she was becoming something she shouldn't be. Get some sleep, he said. Tomorrow we start implementing this. Sienna left the secure room, rode the elevator back to the penthouse, walked to her bedroom in a daze. The city glittered beyond her windows, beautiful and indifferent. She'd just condemned a man to be used as bait, should feel something, guilt, regret, horror at her own coldness. Instead, she felt nothing, just a hollow understanding that this was who she was becoming, someone who made ruthless decisions without flinching, someone who survived. She didn't sleep, lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every choice that had brought her here. The wrong dress, the humiliation, the car in the alley, the contract, the kiss. Every moment another step deeper into darkness. Her phone buzzed at 3 a.m. Text from Lucien. You still awake? Yeah. Come to my office? She should have stayed in bed, maintained boundaries, remembered that their contract explicitly forbade this kind of intimacy. Instead, she got up, found him in his office, surrounded by blueprints and documents, looking as exhausted as she felt. He'd loosened his tie, rolled up his sleeves, traded polished control for something more raw. Can't sleep either? She asked. Haven't slept properly in 5 years. He gestured to the chair across from his desk. Sit. She sat. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, slid one across to her. To terrible decisions, he said. They drank. The whiskey burned going down, but the warmth helped. You proposed using Grayson as bait without hesitation, Lucien said. That's not who you were a week ago. A week ago, I was someone who believed in rules and fairness and consequences. That person is dead. Is she? Or is she just buried under trauma and rage? Does it matter? It might. Because the woman I pulled out of that alley, she had lines she wouldn't cross, principles. You're erasing those lines faster than I expected. Sienna met his eyes. You want me to be weak? Sentimental? The kind of person who gets killed in this world? I want you to be you, not a copy of me. Maybe I was never someone worth protecting. Maybe I was always this ruthless underneath. Maybe you just gave me permission to stop pretending. Lucien studied her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. Then he stood, moved around the desk, and kissed her. Different from the first time. Slower. Deliberate. Like he was making a choice instead of surrendering to impulse. Sienna kissed him back with equal intensity, hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. The whiskey and exhaustion and fear translated into desperate need for something real in a world that felt increasingly fake. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Lucien rested his forehead against hers. This is still a terrible idea, he said. I know. The contract. Fuck the contract. He pulled back enough to look at her. You mean that? We're already breaking every other rule. Might as well break this one, too. Sienna, I'm not asking for forever. I'm asking for right now. For something that feels real in the middle of all this lies and violence. Her hand stayed twisted in his shirt. Can you give me that? His answer was another kiss. Then his hands in her hair, on her waist, pulling her against him with an intensity that suggested he'd been holding back for longer than she'd realized. They barely made it to his bedroom, clothes discarded in a trail across expensive carpet. No gentleness, no romance, just raw need and the understanding that tomorrow might bring violence. Neither of them survived. Afterward, lying tangled in sheets that cost more than her previous month's rent, Sienna felt Lucien's heartbeat against her back where he'd pulled her close. This changes things, he said quietly. I know. Makes you more of a target. If Matteo realizes you're not just a contract wife, he'll use me against you, I know. You've said it 100 times. And yet you're still here. So are you. His arm tightened around her waist. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. This might be the biggest. Or the best. We'll find out. She should have felt satisfied, victorious, like she'd won something. Instead, she felt terrified. Because loving Lucien Moretti meant painting the biggest target imaginable on her own back. And somewhere in Manhattan, Matteo De Luca was watching, waiting, planning exactly how to exploit this weakness. Morning came too fast. Sienna woke alone in Lucien's bed, sunlight cutting through floor-to-ceiling windows. She found her clothes from last night scattered across his bedroom floor, got dressed, and padded barefoot into the penthouse living area. Voices from the secure room. She followed them down. Lucien, Valentina, and 3 people Sienna didn't recognize crowded around monitors showing surveillance footage. "What's wrong?" Sienna asked. Everyone turned. Valentina's expression made her stomach drop. "Your mother," Valentina said. "The security team we sent to extract her last night. They arrived at her house in Connecticut to find it empty. No sign of forced entry, no struggle, just gone." Sienna's vision swam. "What do you mean, gone?" "I mean she wasn't there. Neighbors haven't seen her in 2 days. Her car is still in the driveway. Phone goes straight to voicemail." "Matteo?" "Most likely. He moved faster than we expected." Sienna's legs threatened to give out. Lucien moved to steady her, but she shook him off. "Find her," she said, voice hollow. "We are trying. Every resource I have is searching. But Sienna..." Valentina's expression was grim. "If Matteo took her 2 days ago, before we even knew she was a target, she could be anywhere. He has safe houses across 3 states, underground facilities, places we've never been able to locate. Then find new places. Crack his network. Use Grayson's information. We are. But this takes time." "We don't have time," Sienna's voice cracked. "He's going to kill her, use her to hurt me, to hurt Lucien. We need to find her now." Lucien stepped between her and the monitors. "We will, I promise. Every asset I have is looking for her." "Your promises don't mean shit if she's already dead." His jaw tightened. "She's worth more alive, as leverage. Matteo won't kill her until he's extracted maximum value from the hostage situation." The clinical assessment made Sienna want to scream. "She's my mother, not a hostage situation." "I know, but treating this emotionally gets her killed faster. We need to be smart." Sienna's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered before anyone could stop her. "Mrs. Moretti," Matteo's voice smooth as poison. "I hope you're enjoying your morning. I certainly am." "Where is she?" "Your mother? Safe, comfortable, well-fed. I'm not a monster." "You kidnapped an innocent woman." "I acquired leverage. There's a difference." Background noise suggested he was in a car. "Here's how this works. You have 48 hours to shut down every audit of my construction projects, publicly retract your statements about the waterfront development, and convince your husband to stay out of my business permanently. Or what? Or I mail Patricia Vale back to you in pieces, starting with fingers, then toes, then more important parts. I'll keep her alive through most of it, because I'm told the psychological damage of watching someone be dismantled slowly is worse than quick death." Sienna's vision blurred. "You're insane." "I'm pragmatic. You made yourself my problem. I'm solving that problem. 48 hours, Mrs. Moretti. Clock's ticking." The line went dead. Sienna dropped the phone. Lucien caught her before she hit the floor. "We're getting her back," he said into her hair while she shook. "I swear to you, we're getting her back." But his voice carried doubt he couldn't completely hide, because finding one woman in a city of 8 million, hidden by a man who'd built an empire on making people disappear, was close to impossible. And they had 48 hours. The war room became their entire world. Sienna sat at the center of organized chaos, while Lucien's people worked through Grayson's intelligence with surgical precision. Every property Matteo owned, every business front, every location connected to his network. They found 17 potential safe houses across New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Strike teams deployed to each one. Empty. 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 Hours burned away. Grayson arrived at the penthouse under armed escort, looking more terrified than Sienna had ever seen him. "I didn't know," he said immediately when he saw her face. "I swear I didn't know he was going to take your mother." "But you knew he was targeting her." "He mentioned her as a possibility. I didn't know he'd actually do it." "You didn't know. You didn't think." Sienna's voice was ice. "Do those excuses help you sleep?" "Sienna, where would he take her? You've been working with him for weeks. Where does he keep people he's disappeared?" "I don't know. He never told me about the black site locations. Those are need to know, and I didn't need to know." Lucien cut in. But you've heard things. Rumors. References to locations that didn't make sense. Grayson's forehead creased. There was maybe nothing, but once I heard him on the phone talking about the river property, made it sound like somewhere important. Somewhere he kept special assets. Which river? I don't know. Could be Hudson. Could be East River. Could be anywhere. Valentina was already pulling up maps, marking every property near waterways connected to Matteo's network. 23 locations. We don't have time to search them all, Sienna said. Then we narrow it down. Lucien studied the map. Matteo's careful. He wouldn't keep a hostage somewhere with neighbors who might hear screams. Needs to be isolated. Industrial. Probably with water access for disposal if things go wrong. The list dropped to 8 locations. Still too many. Sienna's phone rang again. Matteo. 36 hours left, he said, but thought I'd check in, see if you're making progress on my demands. We need more time. You need to stop auditing my projects. That's all you need to do. And if I do, you'll release her? Eventually, after I'm satisfied you've learned your place. Let me talk to her. Proof of life. Silence. Then a new voice. Older, frightened. Sienna? Her mother, Sienna's throat closed. Mom, are you hurt? I'm okay. They're treating me okay, but sweetheart, don't do what he wants. Don't. The phone ripped away. Sound of a slap. Her mother's cry of pain. Proof enough? Matteo asked. 36 hours, Mrs. Moretti. Don't waste them. He hung up. Sienna stared at the phone, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. We're close, Lucien said. Valentina, deploy teams to all 8 locations simultaneously. I want eyes on each property within the hour. That spreads us too thin. I don't care. Find her. Teams mobilized. Sienna watched surveillance feeds come online. Grainy footage from cameras positioned near industrial buildings, abandoned warehouses, waterfront properties that looked like they hadn't been used in years. One by one, strike teams reported back. Empty. 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 Down to 3 locations, then 2, then contact, one of the team leads said through the radio. East River property. Movement inside. Thermal imaging shows multiple heat signatures, at least one in a confined space that matches hostage profile. Lucien leaned over the communications console. Confirm. Confirming. 2 guards on the perimeter, one inside near the confined signature. This looks like it. Hold position. Do not engage. We're coming to you. He was already moving, pulling on tactical gear Sienna didn't know he owned. I'm coming with you, she said. Absolutely not. She's my mother. And you're untrained. You'll get yourself and everyone else killed. Lucien. He turned, gripped her shoulders. Stay here. Monitor the feeds. If something goes wrong, you'll know. But I am not bringing you into a hostage extraction where Matteo's men are armed and prepared to kill anyone who gets close. You can't ask me to just wait. I'm not asking. He left. Valentina went with him, along with 8 operators who moved like they'd done this before. Sienna stood in the war room, surrounded by screens showing her mother's potential location, completely powerless. The wait was agony. She watched thermal feeds showing Lucien's team approaching the building, saw them breach the perimeter, heard radio chatter calling out positions and threats, then gunfire, loud enough to make the radio feeds crackle. Contact! Contact! Someone shouted. Multiple hostiles engaging. Explosion. The thermal feed whited out. Sienna's heart stopped. Lucien! She screamed into the radio. Static. More gunfire. Then silence. The feed came back online, showing the building's interior, smoke, debris, bodies on the ground. But no Lucien, no Valentina, no mother. Report, Sienna demanded. Someone report. Nothing. Just static and smoke and the terrible understanding that something had gone catastrophically wrong. Then a voice, weak, damaged. It was a trap. Valentina. Say again? Sienna could barely breathe. Trap. Building was rigged. Explosives triggered when we breached. Lucien's down. Multiple casualties. Your mother is coughing. Your mother was never here. It was a decoy, mannequin with heat signature simulation. The room spun. Where's Lucien? Unconscious. Shrapnel wounds. We need medical evac immediately. Sienna was already running, screaming orders at the support team, coordinating emergency response while her mind fractured into 1,000 pieces. Trap. Matteo had known they were coming, had prepared the perfect ambush, which meant her blood went cold. Grayson. She spun toward where he'd been sitting, giving them information, helping narrow down locations. He was gone. Where is he? She demanded. One of the analysts looked up, confused. Who? Grayson. Where the fuck is Grayson? He left maybe 10 minutes ago, said he needed air. Sienna ran, through the penthouse, into the elevator, down to the parking garage. Grayson's car was gone. But worse, so was something else. The secure server room door stood open. She burst inside. The isolated computer they'd used to analyze the thumb drive, powered on, now connected to the main network through an Ethernet cable that shouldn't be there. Someone had bridged the air gap, given whatever was on that drive access to their entire security system. Sienna pulled out her phone, called the analyst team. Check the network, now. Tell me if we've been compromised. Typing, frantic clicking. Then, oh God, malware, it's everywhere, eating through our security protocols, grabbing data, sending it… Where? External server. I'm trying to trace, it's bouncing through proxies. I can't… The line died. Every screen in the secure room went black. Then they all lit up simultaneously with a single image. Matteo De Luca's face. And a message in red text, Checkmate, Mrs. Moretti. The speakers crackled to life with his voice. I hope you're enjoying the show. Your husband is currently bleeding out in one of my buildings. Your mother is somewhere you'll never find her. And thanks to Grayson's little gift, I now have complete access to every security system, financial record, and operational detail of the Moretti empire. Sienna couldn't breathe. You see, I never needed Grayson to give me real intelligence. I needed him to give you poisoned intelligence wrapped in enough truth that you'd believe it. That drive? It was my Trojan horse, and you plugged it right into your heart. The screens flickered, showing new footage. Her mother. Real this time. Tied to a chair in a concrete room, bruised but alive. 48 hours is now 24, Matteo continued. Shut down every audit, retract every statement, and convince Lucien, if he survives his injuries, to surrender his entire operation to me. Construction contracts, development rights, everything. Or I start removing pieces of Patricia Vale. The feed cut. Silence crashed through the room. Sienna stood alone, surrounded by dead screens and shattered security, and finally understood the full scope of Matteo's plan. He'd never been fighting a war. He'd been playing chess, and she'd been a pawn who just helped him capture the king. Lucien bleeding out, her mother hostage, their security compromised. Grayson revealed as Matteo's plant from the very beginning. Everything, every choice, every move, every moment she'd thought she was being smart, had been orchestrated to bring them to this exact point. Complete destruction. Her phone buzzed. Text from a number she didn't recognize. Your move, Mrs. Moretti. Choose who lives. Choose fast. Attached. 2 photographs. One of Lucien on a stretcher, EMTs working frantically, blood everywhere. One of her mother, closer now, camera showing the knife held against her throat. Sienna's legs gave out. She collapsed onto the floor of the server room, surrounded by technological wreckage and tactical failure, and realized she'd been wrong about everything. She wasn't ruthless. She wasn't a survivor. She was just a woman who'd walked into a war completely unprepared, and now everyone she loved was paying the price. Her hands found her phone, pulled up the last message, stared at the photographs until they blurred, then made a decision that would either save them all or destroy whatever was left of her soul. She called Matteo. I'll give you what you want, she said when he answered. Everything, the audits, the statements, Lucien's empire, all of it. Smart girl. But I have one condition. You're not in a position to make conditions. Let me see my mother first, in person. Proof she's alive and unharmed. Then I'll deliver Lucien's surrender personally. Silence while he considered. You have courage, I'll give you that. Stupid courage, but courage nonetheless. Do we have a deal? We have a meeting, tomorrow, noon. I'll send you the location. Come alone. No bodyguards, no husband, no tricks. or I kill her in front of you and mail the pieces to Lucien's hospital room. Done. She hung up before he could hear her voice break. Tomorrow at noon, she'd walk into whatever trap Matteo had prepared, unarmed, alone, with nothing but desperate hope that she could somehow save her mother and find a way to warn Lucien before Matteo dismantled everything he'd built. It was a suicide mission, but it was the only move she had left. Outside the server room, Manhattan glittered with its usual indifference. Inside, Sienna Vale sat on cold concrete and felt herself transform into something she'd never imagined becoming. Not a victim, not a survivor. Something worse. Someone willing to burn herself alive if it meant protecting the people she loved. Even if they'd warned her love was a death sentence. Even if every choice had led her deeper into darkness. Even if this was the end. She stood, wiped her face, and started preparing for tomorrow. Because if she was going down, she was taking Matteo De Luca with her. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and death. Sienna pushed through ICU doors at 4 a.m., still wearing yesterday's clothes, eyes raw from crying and rage and the kind of exhaustion that went beyond physical. Valentina had called an hour ago with the update. Lucien was stable, alive, unconscious but breathing. The relief had lasted maybe 10 seconds before the guilt crashed in. This was her fault. She'd trusted Grayson's intelligence. She'd proposed using him as bait. She'd been so focused on being ruthless and strategic that she'd walked them straight into Matteo's trap. Valentina waited outside Lucien's room, left arm in a sling, face covered in cuts from the explosion. She looked like she'd been through a war. She had. "How is he?" Sienna asked. 12 pieces of shrapnel removed from his back and legs. Concussion. 3 broken ribs. He'll live, but he won't be mobile for weeks. Valentina's good hand clenched into a fist. "We lost 2 operators in that explosion. Good people. Because we believed Grayson's bullshit. I believed it. This is on me. It's on all of us. But mostly it's on Matteo for being 10 steps ahead." She gestured toward Lucien's room. "He's been asking for you. Every time he wakes up, your name is the first thing out of his mouth." Sienna's chest tightened. "I can't face him." "You don't have a choice. He needs to know about your mother, about the meeting." "I haven't told him about the meeting." Valentina's eyes went sharp. "What meeting?" "Matteo called, offered in exchange. I see my mother, prove she's alive, then deliver Lucien's surrender." "And you said yes." "I said I'd show up, noon today, alone." "That's suicide." "That's the only play we have left." Valentina grabbed her good arm, fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. "Listen to me very carefully. You walk into whatever location Matteo sends, alone and unarmed, you're dead. He doesn't need you alive anymore. He has Lucien's security systems compromised, your mother as leverage, and our entire operation exposed. Killing you is just tying up loose ends. Then what do you suggest? We regroup. Find another angle? Use the FBI. Trade testimony for protection. The FBI can't move fast enough. I have until noon. Then we push the timeline, make Matteo wait. He'll kill my mother. He might kill her anyway." Sienna pulled free. "I'm going. You can help me prepare or you can stay here and watch Lucien sleep. Your choice." Valentina stared at her like she was looking at a stranger. "You've changed," she said quietly. "A week ago, you were terrified of everything. Now you're walking into certain death without blinking. A week ago, I had something to lose. Now I'm already destroyed. Might as well make it count." She pushed past Valentina into Lucien's room. He looked smaller in the hospital bed, vulnerable. Machines beeped around him, monitoring vitals, pumping medication. Bandages covered most of his torso. His face was pale, drawn, covered in bruises. But his eyes were open, watching her. "You look like hell," he said, voice rough. "You look worse. I feel worse." He tried to sit up, winced, gave up. "Valentina told me about the malware, the security breach." "How bad?" "Total compromise. Matteo has access to everything. Financial records, construction schedules, personnel files. He knows where we are, what we're planning, who we trust. So we're blind and exposed." "Completely." Lucien closed his eyes. "I underestimated him. Thought I could outmaneuver him using conventional tactics. Didn't realize he was playing a completely different game." "Neither did I." "This isn't your fault." "Yes, it is. I trusted Grayson. I pushed to use his intelligence. I got your people killed. You made decisions with the information available. So did I. We both got played. He opened his eyes again. Where's your mother? Sienna's throat closed. Matteo has her. Sent proof of life last night. She's alive, but being used as leverage to force my surrender. He wants everything. The construction empire, the developments, all of it, in exchange for her life. When? I'm meeting him at noon. He'll send the location. Lucien's expression went dark. No. It's not negotiable. The hell it isn't. You're not walking into a meeting with Matteo De Luca alone. I don't have another option. There's always another option. Name it. He tried to sit up again, got maybe 6 inches before pain stopped him. His jaw clenched, sweat breaking across his forehead. Give me 12 hours. Let me coordinate a proper extraction. You can barely move. You're not coordinating anything. Valentina lost half her tactical team in your trap. She doesn't have the resources for an extraction. Then we call in external help, private contractors, people who owe me favors. And trust them with intelligence when our entire security network is compromised? When anyone we contact might be feeding information straight to Matteo? Sienna moved closer to the bed. It's over, Lucien. We lost. The only move left is damage control. I save my mother, you survive your injuries, and Matteo gets his empire. I don't accept that. You don't have to accept it. It's happening anyway. His hand shot out faster than she expected given his injuries and grabbed her wrist. Listen to me. Matteo won't honor any deal. You show up, he kills you and your mother both. Takes everything anyway. That's how he operates. Then I'll die trying to save her. That's better than hiding here while he tortures her to death. It's not better. It's just faster. Let go of me. No. They locked eyes. His desperate and furious, hers hollow and determined. I love you, Lucien said. The words hit like bullets. Don't, Sienna whispered. I love you, and I'm not letting you throw your life away on a suicide mission that won't even save your mother. You don't get to make that choice. Then what choice do I get? Lying here helpless while you walk into an execution? Watching you die because I was too broken to stop you? Yes, that's exactly the choice you get. She pulled her wrist free. Because loving me doesn't mean controlling me. And right now, the only person who can save my mother is me. You can't save her if you're dead. And I can't live with myself if I don't try. She turned toward the door. Sienna. She stopped but didn't look back. If you do this, Lucien said, voice breaking, if you walk into that meeting, you're not just risking your life. You're burning the only leverage we have left. Once Matteo has you, he has everything. There's no negotiation, no backup plan, just surrender. I know. And you're doing it anyway. I'm doing it because it's the only move that might save one person I love, even if it costs me everything else. She walked out before he could respond. Valentina was waiting in the hallway. I'm going with you, she said. No, you're not. I'm not letting you go alone. Matteo said alone. I bring backup. He kills my mother before I'm through the door. Then I'll hang back. Perimeter surveillance. You wear a wire. I monitor from a distance. Your security systems are compromised. Any wire I wear, Matteo will detect. There are other ways. No. Sienna's voice went hard. You stay here. Protect Lucien. Because when this goes wrong, and it will go wrong, he's going to need you to keep him from doing something stupid like trying to rescue me. Valentina's expression cracked. You're really going to die for her. I'm really going to try to save her. The dying part is optional. Not with Matteo, it isn't. Then I guess we'll see. She left before Valentina could argue further. The penthouse felt like a mausoleum. Sienna walked through rooms she'd lived in for barely a week, touching surfaces she'd never see again, memorizing details in case this was the last time. Her phone buzzed at 6 a.m. Text from unknown number with GPS coordinates and a time. Noon. Abandoned meatpacking plant in Red Hook. Of course it was abandoned. Of course it was isolated. Matteo wasn't taking any chances. She had 6 hours. Sienna spent the first hour showering, washing away hospital smell and blood and fear. Let scalding water pour over her until her skin turned red. Got dressed in jeans and a t-shirt, Nothing fancy, nothing that suggested she thought she was walking into a business meeting. This was an execution. Might as well dress for it. The second hour she spent writing. Letters to Lucien. To her mother. To Valentina. Words she needed said in case she didn't come back. Apologies and explanations and the kind of confessions you only make when you're certain you're about to die. She sealed them in envelopes, left them on the kitchen counter where someone would find them. The third hour she spent planning. Matteo expected her alone and unarmed. Fine. She'd show up that way. But that didn't mean she had to stay that way. Red Hook had 1,000 hiding spots, abandoned buildings, shipping containers, places to stash weapons if you were smart about it. She made calls to people who owed Lucien favors, arranged for a weapons cache to be placed near the meatpacking plant. Nothing fancy. Just a pistol and a knife, enough to make a difference if she got an opening. The fourth hour she spent trying to eat and failing. Food tasted like ash. Her stomach rejected everything. Ended up just drinking water and waiting for the nausea to pass. The fifth hour she spent memorizing her mother's face from photographs. The way she smiled. The sound of her voice. Every detail Sienna could remember, burning it into memory in case this was goodbye. The sixth hour she spent in silence, just sitting, breathing, accepting that she might not see tomorrow. At 11:30, she left. The car service she'd called was waiting. Not one of Lucien's armored vehicles. Those were compromised. Just a regular sedan driven by a man who didn't ask questions when she gave him the Red Hook address. Manhattan slid past the windows. Brooklyn approached. The city she'd fought so hard to belong in, now watching her drive toward probable death without caring. They reached Red Hook at 11:50. The meatpacking plant loomed like a corpse. 5 stories of red brick and broken windows, surrounded by chain-link fence and decades of neglect. Graffiti covered every surface. The whole area stank of river water and industrial waste. Perfect place for murder. Sienna got out of the car 2 blocks away. Walked the rest. Found the weapons cache exactly where it was supposed to be, hidden behind a dumpster in an alley adjacent to the plant. She strapped the knife to her ankle under her jeans, tucked the pistol into the small of her back. Matteo's people would search her, but maybe not thoroughly enough. At exactly noon, she approached the plant's main entrance. 2 men waited there. Matteo's people, expensive suits, dead eyes, bulges under their jackets that suggested serious firepower. "Mrs. Moretti," one said, "hands up, spread your legs." She complied. They searched her thoroughly, found the pistol immediately. The knife took longer, but they got it. Removed both weapons, her phone, her watch, everything that could be used as a weapon or tracking device. "Clean," one said. They grabbed her arms, walked her inside. The interior was exactly as abandoned as the exterior suggested. Concrete floors covered in debris. Rusted equipment that hadn't been used in decades. Hooks hanging from ceiling rails where animal carcasses used to hang. Sienna's stomach turned. They took her deeper into the building, downstairs, into the basement level where sunlight didn't reach. Just emergency lights that barely worked, casting everything in sickly yellow. Then into a large room that looked like it had been a processing floor. And there, her mother, tied to a chair in the center of the room, bruised face, hands bound behind her back, but alive, conscious, eyes going wide when she saw Sienna. "Mom," Sienna choked out. "Sienna, no, you shouldn't have come." One of the guards hit her mother across the face. Patricia's head snapped sideways, blood from a split lip. "Stop!" Sienna lunged forward. The guards holding her arms tightened their grip, stopping her dead. Touching reunion. Matteo stepped out of the shadows. He looked exactly like he had at the gala. Expensive suit, perfect hair, smile that suggested he enjoyed this. Behind him stood more guards. 6 total. All armed, all positioned to cover every exit. Sienna was completely surrounded. "You came alone," Matteo observed. "I'm impressed. I expected Lucien to try something stupid. Lucien's in the hospital. You put him there." "I did, didn't I? That explosion was beautifully executed. My demolition expert deserves a bonus." He moved closer, circling her like prey. "Tell me, how does it feel knowing you led him into that trap? Knowing your trust in Grayson got his people killed? Where's Grayson? Somewhere safe, being rewarded for excellent work. He played his part perfectly. Fed you just enough real intelligence to seem credible, then delivered the malware that destroyed your entire security network. Matteo stopped directly in front of her. You really thought you could use him as bait? That I wouldn't see through such an obvious tactic? I thought I had a chance. You never had a chance. From the moment you walked into my construction presentation and criticized my waterfront project, you were a dead woman. I just needed time to make your death useful. Sienna's jaw tightened. Then kill me, but let my mother go. She has nothing to do with this. On the contrary, she has everything to do with this. Patricia Vale raised the woman stupid enough to challenge me. That makes her complicit. She's innocent. Nobody's innocent, Mrs. Moretti. We're all just varying degrees of guilty. He gestured to one of the guards. Bring the camera. A guard disappeared, returned with professional video equipment, started setting it up on a tripod facing Sienna and her mother. What are you doing? Sienna asked. Documenting. Lucien gets to watch what happens when people cross me, and the rest of New York's criminal community gets a reminder about the price of interference. Matteo smiled. You're about to become a very effective deterrent. The camera's red light blinked on. Recording. Now, Matteo continued, speaking to the camera, this is Sienna Moretti, wife of Lucien Moretti, the woman who thought she could audit my construction projects, expose my business practices, and survive the consequences. Watch carefully. He pulled a pistol from inside his jacket, walked to Patricia, put the gun against her temple. No, Sienna screamed. You said, I said a lot of things, most of them lies. Matteo's finger moved toward the trigger. Any last words for your mother? Sienna's mind raced, searching for leverage, for anything that could stop this. I have information, she blurted out, about Lucien's operation. Things you don't know, financial accounts, hidden assets, people on his payroll you've never identified. Matteo paused. You'd betray your husband to save your mother? Yes. Interesting. Tell me one thing. Something I can verify. Prove you're not just stalling. Sienna's thoughts spun. She needed something real, something valuable enough to buy time, but not so valuable it couldn't be verified. There's a warehouse in Queens, she said, under a shell company called Meridian Holdings. Lucien uses it to store cash from operations he can't report, approximately $5 million, bundled and ready for emergency liquidation. Matteo gestured to one of his guards. Check it. The guard pulled out a phone, made a call, spoke in rapid Italian. 2 minutes that felt like hours. Then the guard nodded. Warehouse exists, company matches. We can't confirm contents without physical inspection, but the intelligence appears accurate. Matteo lowered the gun from Patricia's head. What else? Let my mother go first, then I'll tell you everything. Not how this works. You give me everything, then I decide whether she lives. That's not a deal. That's the only deal available. He raised the gun again. 3 seconds. More information or she dies. 1. Offshore accounts in the Caymans. 2. Under the name Viktor Sokolov. 3. The access codes are in Lucien's office safe, behind a false panel in the east wall. Combination is 183724. Matteo stopped. Made another gesture. Another guard on the phone, calling someone who was apparently at the penthouse, checking the information. Longer wait this time. 5 minutes. Sienna's heart hammered so hard she thought it would crack her ribs. Finally, the guard nodded confirmation. Safe exists. Panel is where she said. We're opening it now. Matteo smiled. You're quite good at this betrayal thing. Must run in the family. What's that supposed to mean? It means your mother has been very cooperative, too. Told us all about Lucien's security protocols, his daily routines, where he keeps his weapons. Very helpful. Sienna looked at her mother. Patricia's expression was stricken, guilty. I'm sorry, her mother whispered. They said they'd kill you if I didn't talk. I didn't know what else to do. The world tilted. Her mother had given up Lucien's security details, which meant the explosion, Sienna said slowly. You knew exactly where to hit because my mother told you his security patterns. Smart girl, see? Betrayal really does run in the family. Matteo holstered his pistol. Here's what happens next. You're going to call Lucien. Tell him you've negotiated your mother's release in exchange for signing over his construction empire. Get him to prepare the transfer documents. Once I have legal ownership of everything he's built, then maybe I let one of you live. He won't do it. He will if he thinks it'll save you. Love makes people stupid. You've proven that already. One of the guards handed Sienna a phone. She stared at it. If she made this call, if she convinced Lucien to surrender everything, Matteo would own half of New York's construction industry, would consolidate power beyond anything he currently had, would become unstoppable. But if she didn't, the gun returned to her mother's head. "Call him," Matteo said. "Now." Sienna's hands shook as she dialed. It rang twice. Lucien answered, voice tight with pain and medication. "Sienna, I'm here, with Matteo. He has my mother. Are you hurt?" "Not yet, but he wants—" Her voice cracked. "He wants you to sign over the empire. All of it. Construction contracts, developments, everything, in exchange for letting us live." Silence on the other end. Then, "Put him on." Sienna handed the phone to Matteo. "Lucien," Matteo said pleasantly, "I hope you're recovering well. Hate to negotiate while you're in such a vulnerable position, but business doesn't wait for injuries." Lucien's voice came through faint but clear. "You want my empire? Come take it." "I'm in the process." "Legally, of course. I find proper documentation prevents future complications. Your lawyers will receive transfer papers within the hour. Sign them, and Sienna and her mother walk away alive. And if I don't? Then I kill them both on camera and mail you the footage." More silence. Sienna held her breath. Finally, Lucien spoke. "You win. I'll sign. But I want proof they're alive before any documents are executed." "Reasonable." Matteo turned the phone's camera towards Sienna and Patricia. "As you can see, both alive. Both unharmed for now. You have 2 hours to prepare the paperwork. After that, I start removing incentives to cooperate." He hung up. Turned to Sienna. 2 hours until your husband destroys everything he built to save you. Must feel powerful, being worth an empire. You're going to kill us anyway." "Probably. But there's a chance I won't. If Lucien cooperates quickly enough, if you both behave, if I wake up feeling generous." He shrugged. "Slim chance is better than no chance." He gestured to the guards. They grabbed Sienna, dragged her to another chair next to her mother, zip-tied her wrists behind her back so tight the plastic cut into skin. Then Matteo and most of his men left. Just 2 guards remained, watching, weapons ready. Sienna sat beside her mother in the yellow emergency lighting, both bound, both waiting for either rescue or execution. "I'm sorry," Patricia whispered. "I should have stayed quiet. Let them kill me. But I was so scared." "Stop. You did what anyone would do. I betrayed him, gave them everything they needed to hurt him. You're not trained for this. You're a librarian. They had no right putting you in this position." "Neither did you." Sienna looked at her mother's bruised face. "What? You married a criminal to get revenge on Grayson, walked into a world you didn't understand, dragged me into the crossfire." Patricia's voice was gentle but firm. "I love you, but this, all of this, started because you couldn't let go of humiliation, had to prove something instead of just walking away." The words hit harder than any physical blow because they were true. If Sienna had walked away that night, if she'd refused Lucien's offer, if she'd chosen literally any other path than revenge, her mother wouldn't be tied to a chair waiting to die. Lucien wouldn't be in a hospital bed with shrapnel wounds. 2 operators wouldn't be dead. An empire wouldn't be crumbling. "You're right," Sienna said quietly. "This is my fault. All of it. I didn't say that to hurt you, but it's true. And if we survive this, if we somehow get out of here alive, I'll spend the rest of my life making it right." "How?" "I don't know yet." They sat in silence. Minutes crawled past. 1 hour. The guards changed shift. New men, same dead eyes, 90 minutes. Sienna's wrists had gone numb from the zip ties. Her shoulders screamed from the awkward position. But none of that mattered compared to the certainty growing in her gut that Matteo had no intention of letting them live. This was just theater, a performance designed to torture Lucien while destroying his legacy. At the 2-hour mark, Matteo returned. He carried a tablet showing legal documents. Your husband has been very cooperative, signed everything, even added a few assets I didn't know about. He showed Sienna the screen, transfer agreements bearing Lucien's digital signature, legal and binding. As of 10 minutes ago, I owned the Moretti construction empire. Every contract, every development, every piece of leverage he spent 15 years building. Sienna's chest felt hollow. Lucien had surrendered everything for her. So let us go, she said. I said I might. Never said I would. He drew his pistol. The problem with mercy, Matteo continued, is that it suggests weakness. And in my business, weakness gets you killed. So as much as I'd enjoy the symmetry of letting you live with the guilt of destroying Lucien's empire, the lights went out, complete darkness. Shouts from the guards. Gunfire erupted. Muzzle flashes lit the room in strobing bursts. Matteo's guards shooting at shadows, at movement, at nothing. Then someone was cutting Sienna's zip ties. Strong hands, familiar voice. Move, now! Valentina. She pulled Sienna to her feet, shoved something into her hands. A pistol. More gunfire, screaming, bodies hitting concrete. Emergency lights kicked back on. Chaos. 4 of Matteo's guards down. Valentina's team, operators Sienna didn't recognize, flooding into the room from multiple entry points. Professional, coordinated. A rescue operation that shouldn't have been possible given their compromised security, but it was happening. Sienna spun, looking for her mother. Patricia was gone. Her chair empty, zip ties cut, dragged away during the blackout by Matteo. He had her mother in a headlock, pistol pressed to Patricia's skull, backing toward a rear exit while his remaining guards tried to hold off Valentina's team. Sienna! Valentina shouted. Get down! But Sienna was already moving, raising the pistol Valentina had given her, training it on Matteo. Let her go, Sienna said. Or what? You'll shoot. Risk hitting your mother? Matteo laughed. You're not a killer, you're an architect who thought she could play in my world. Put the gun down before you hurt yourself. Sienna's hands shook. The pistol felt foreign, too heavy. Wrong. She'd never fired a gun in her life. Behind Matteo, the exit door stood open. Darkness beyond. He was seconds from disappearing with her mother, and Sienna would never see her again. Last chance, Matteo said. Drop the weapon or isto go. Sienna fired. The gun kicked harder than expected. The shot went wide, missing Matteo by inches, punching into concrete behind him. He flinched, just for a second. His grip on Patricia loosened. Patricia drove her elbow into his stomach, threw herself sideways. Sienna fired again. This time the bullet found its target. Matteo's shoulder exploded. He spun, hit the wall, dropped his pistol, but didn't fall. Grabbed for Patricia again with his good arm. Sienna fired a third time. Center mass. Matteo went down. The room fell silent except for ringing ears and heavy breathing. Valentina's team secured the last of Matteo's guards, zip-tied them, called for medical and police. Sienna ran to her mother. Patricia was shaking, sobbing, but alive. It's over, Sienna whispered. You're safe. It's over. But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't true, because Matteo was still breathing, still alive on the concrete floor, blood spreading from the chest wound, looking up at her with hate and disbelief. You actually shot me, he gasped. You actually believed I wouldn't. This doesn't end. He coughed blood. This doesn't end with me. I have partners, people who'll come for you, for Lucien, for everyone you love. Then we'll deal with them too. You can't. You're not built for this world. Sienna crouched beside him, pistol still in her hand. You're right, she said quietly. I wasn't built for this world, but I've learned. You taught me. Every threat, every manipulation, every calculated move designed to break me. You taught me exactly how ruthless I needed to become to survive people like you. She stood, walked away while paramedics rushed in to try saving the man who'd orchestrated her destruction. Valentina appeared beside her, covered in tactical gear and someone else's blood. How? Sienna asked. How did you find us? Our security was compromised. It was. So I used external contractors. People Matteo had no intel on, called in every favor Lucien's ever earned from operators who owe him their lives. Valentina's expression was grim satisfaction. He thought destroying our network made us helpless. Forgot that Lucien's real power isn't systems, it's people. The document transfers, fake. Lucien signed them under duress, which makes them legally invalid. His lawyers will shred them before Mateo's body cools. If it cools, Sienna thought, but didn't say. The paramedics were working frantically. Mateo might survive, or he might not. Either way, he'd lost. Sienna walked out of the meatpacking plant with her mother leaning heavily on her shoulder, into sunlight that felt wrong after so much darkness. Police cars and ambulances filled the street. Federal agents in FBI jackets were already arriving, ready to take statements and evidence. Her phone, returned by one of Valentina's team, buzzed. Lucien. She answered. It's done, she said before he could speak. We're alive. Mateo's shot. It's over. Silence on the other end, except for breathing that suggested pain or relief, or both. Then, come home. I need to give a statement to... Valentina will handle it. Come home. Please. The vulnerability in his voice made her chest ache. I'll be there in an hour. She hung up. Looked at her mother. Bruised, exhausted, traumatized but alive. I need to take you somewhere safe, Sienna said. I need to go home. My real home. Connecticut. Away from all of this. It's not safe yet. Sweetheart, Patricia cupped her daughter's face. Nothing about this is safe, but I can't stay in your world. It'll kill me slower than Mateo would have. I need to go home. Process this. Figure out if I can ever feel safe again. I'll have security on you, 24/7 until we're certain. Fine. But I need space. From you. From this city. From everything that happened here. Her mother's eyes were gentle but firm. I love you, but I can't be part of whatever you've become. The words cut deep. Because Sienna understood. Her mother was right. She had become something different, something harder. Someone who could shoot a man without hesitation when her family was threatened. Someone her mother didn't recognize anymore. I understand, Sienna whispered. They held each other for a long moment. Then Patricia was escorted to a waiting car by federal agents who'd coordinate her protective custody and transport back to Connecticut. Sienna watched her mother disappear into the city, then turned to Valentina. Take me to Lucien. The hospital felt different this time, less like a place of defeat, more like a battlefield where they'd somehow survived. Lucien was still in his room, still covered in bandages and hooked to machines, but his eyes were clear when Sienna entered, alert, focused entirely on her. You shot him, he said. News travels fast. Valentina called from the scene, said you put 3 rounds in Mateo De Luca without hesitation. Something that might have been pride flickered across his expression. I told you that you were dangerous. You told me love was a death sentence. It is. For some people. He held out his hand. But maybe not for us. Sienna took it. Sat on the edge of his bed. Let herself feel the weight of everything that had happened. My mother's going home, she said. Back to Connecticut. Says she can't be part of this world. Can you? I don't know. A week ago, I would have said no. Now, she looked at their joined hands. Now I've killed a man. Watched people die. Destroyed relationships I thought were unbreakable. I don't know who I am anymore. You're a survivor. That's who you are. That's who you've always been. Underneath the architecture and social climbing and belief in fairness. Lucien's grip tightened. You survived Grayson's humiliation. Survived my world's violence. Survived Mateo's trap. You're still standing when everyone expected you to break. I did break, just not the way they expected. No, you transformed. There's a difference. Sienna leaned down, pressed her forehead to his. I love you, she whispered. Even though you warned me not to. Even though it's dangerous and stupid and goes against every rule in our contract. I love you. I love you too. More than I thought I could love anyone after Isabella. Your first wife, is gone. Was gone long before I met you. And I spent 5 years punishing myself for not saving her, for thinking love was my weakness. His hand came up, cupped her cheek. But loving you, that's not weakness. That's the only thing that kept me fighting when Mateo had you. The only thing that mattered more than my empire, or my pride, or my life. You signed everything over to save me. And I'd do it again, without hesitation. Even knowing I walked into that trap stupidly, that I trusted Grayson and got your people killed? Even knowing all of that. Because you're worth more than buildings and contracts and criminal reputations. He pulled her closer. You're worth everything. They kissed, gentle this time. Not desperate, just certain. A promise that they'd survived the worst and chosen each other anyway. When they finally broke apart, Sienna asked the question that had been building since the meatpacking plant. What happens now? Now we rebuild. The malware Grayson planted, Valentina's team is scrubbing it. Should have our systems clean within 48 hours. The transfer documents Matteo forced me to sign are being invalidated as we speak. And Matteo himself, is he going to survive? Unknown. Last I heard, he was in emergency surgery. 50-50 odds. Lucien's expression went dark. If he lives, he'll face federal charges. The FBI has been building a case for years. Your shooting him just accelerated their timeline. If he dies, then we deal with whoever takes his place. Exactly. Sienna sat back, processing. And us? What happens to us? That depends. Our contract has 4 months left. You could honor it. Take your money. Walk away with everything you wanted. Revenge on Grayson, enough capital to start your architectural firm, and a hell of a story. Or we tear up the contract. Make this real. Not a business arrangement, not a temporary alliance, just us, whatever that becomes. Sienna's heart hammered. This was the choice. Walk away clean with money and revenge and her life somewhat intact. Or stay in this violent world with a man who'd warned her that everyone he loved became a target. I need time, she said. I know. To process everything. To figure out who I am now. To decide if I can actually survive in your world long term. Take all the time you need. I'll be here. He gestured at his injuries. Not going anywhere for a while. She smiled despite everything. Then her phone rang. Valentina. Turn on the news, Valentina said without preamble. Channel 7. Sienna found the remote, flipped to the news channel. Breaking coverage, aerial footage of the meatpacking plant. Reporter's voiceover explaining the dramatic rescue, the shooting, the arrest of multiple suspects connected to organized crime. Then the image changed. To Grayson Mercer, being led out of a federal building in handcuffs. Arrested this afternoon on charges of conspiracy, racketeering, and providing material support to organized crime. Sources say Mercer had been working as an informant for Matteo De Luca's criminal enterprise for months, feeding intelligence that led to multiple violent incidents, including Sienna's breath caught, Grayson's face on screen, pale, terrified, destroyed, his political career incinerated, his freedom gone, his future reduced to federal prison. That's the final nail, Lucien said quietly. The FBI flipped him, offered him witness protection in exchange for testimony against Matteo's entire organization. But he refused, thought he could lawyer his way out. Now he's facing 20 years minimum. Good, Sienna heard herself say. And meant it. The man who'd publicly humiliated her, who'd betrayed Lucien, who'd helped orchestrate her mother's kidnapping, was finally facing consequences. It's really over, she said. This chapter is. But there will be others. Men like Matteo don't operate in isolation. He has partners, allies, people who'll want revenge for what happened today. So we'll never be safe. We'll never be completely safe. But we'll be together, and we'll be ready. Lucien squeezed her hand. That's the best anyone in this world gets. Sienna looked at him, broken and bandaged but alive. At the television showing Grayson's arrest. At her own reflection in the dark window, showing a woman who'd shot a man to save her mother and felt no regret. She thought about her contract, her original plan, revenge and money and walking away clean. Then she thought about Lucien's kiss, his confession of love, the way he'd signed over his empire without hesitation to save her life. The choice wasn't really a choice at all. Tear up the contract, she said. Lucien's expression went still. You're certain? Completely. I didn't survive all of this just to walk away from the only real thing I've found in this entire mess. Whatever we are, whatever we become, I want it, all of it, the danger and violence and constant threat, as long as it's with you. That's the worst decision you could make. Then I'm consistent. I've been making terrible decisions since I got into your car in that alley. And look where it got you. Exactly where I need to be." They kissed again. Deeper this time. A promise and a beginning and a reckless commitment to a future neither could predict. When they finally broke apart, Lucien was smiling, really smiling. The first genuine expression of happiness she'd seen on his face since they'd met. "Welcome to the family," he said, "for real this time." "Does this mean I get a new ring?" That black diamond screams contract marriage. "You can have whatever you want. I want you, healed, out of this hospital, back in that penthouse so we can figure out what normal looks like for us." Normal might be overrated. Then we'll figure out our version of it. Outside the hospital window, Manhattan glittered with its usual indifference. Inside the room, two people who'd survived betrayal and violence and their own worst decisions held each other and chose to build something real from the wreckage. It wasn't a happy ending. Not yet. Too many threats still lurking, too many consequences waiting to unfold, too many ways this could still fall apart. But it was a beginning, and for two people who'd both been destroyed and rebuilt in the span of a week, that was enough. For now. The real test would come in 4 months, when the original contract would have expired, when Sienna would have taken her money and disappeared, when everything was supposed to end. Instead, they'd see if love built in darkness could survive the light, if a marriage born from revenge could transform into something genuine, if two broken people could become something stronger together than they'd ever been apart. The answer waited somewhere in Manhattan's future, along with whatever new threats emerged from the power vacuum Matteo's fall had created. But tonight they'd survived, and that would have to be victory enough. 6 months later, Sienna stood in front of floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a construction site in Brooklyn, watching the skeletal framework of what would become a 30-story mixed-use tower rise against the autumn sky. Her tower. Her design. The first project from Vale Architecture, the firm she'd launched 3 months ago with money that wasn't from Lucien's pockets or Matteo's blood. Just her own work, her own clients, her own reputation rebuilt, brick by brick. The office was small, 3 employees, modest lease in a building that didn't require armed security to enter. But it was hers in a way nothing had been hers since that night in the restaurant when Grayson had destroyed her in front of Manhattan's elite. She'd clawed her way back, different this time, harder, smarter. Someone who understood that survival meant accepting you'd never be completely safe, just prepared. Her phone buzzed. "Lucien, dinner tonight? Found a place you haven't vetoed yet." She smiled despite herself. They'd been through 43 restaurant suggestions in the past 2 weeks. She'd rejected all of them for various reasons. Too public, too isolated, too many memories, not enough exits. Paranoia had become her constant companion. Some scars didn't heal. They just became part of your operating system. "Where?" "Trust me, I don't trust anyone. You trust me." She did. Against all logic and self-preservation instincts, she trusted Lucien Moretti with her life, which was insane, but also true. "Fine. Pick me up at 7. Wear something that makes me forget we're in public. Behave never." She pocketed her phone, turned back to the construction site. The foreman, a man named Torres who'd worked in the industry for 30 years, waved from the ground level. She waved back. They had a meeting in 20 minutes to discuss foundation inspections and concrete testing schedules, normal things, business things. The kind of architectural work she'd spent years training for, finally happening without the shadow of humiliation or revenge or criminal empires hanging over every decision. Her assistant, a recent graduate named Maya with more energy than sense, appeared in the doorway. "Ms. Vale, your 3 o'clock is here." "I don't have a 3 o'clock. "She says it's personal, wouldn't give a name, just said you'd want to see her." Sienna's hand moved instinctively toward the panic button Valentina had installed under her desk, direct line to a security response team that could arrive in under 3 minutes. 6 months of safety hadn't erased the reflex. "Send her in," Sienna said, "but stay close." Maya nodded, disappeared. A woman entered, mid-40s, expensive suit, blonde hair pulled into a severe bun, face that looked familiar but Sienna couldn't place from where. Then the woman spoke. "Mrs. Moretti, or should I say Ms. Vale now? I heard you went back to your maiden name professionally." The voice clicked everything into place. Celeste Whitmore, Grayson's fiancé. the woman he'd chosen to replace Sienna with at that catastrophic restaurant announcement 6 months ago. "What do you want?" Sienna asked, hand still hovering near the panic button. "To talk. 5 minutes. Then I'll leave and you'll never see me again." "We have nothing to talk about."